shoes and walk among the groups of two. It's not ideal, it's just how we feel. It's a shame we're easily amused. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. Cast a stone and hit a hardcore view. Catchphrase of the day is that it's true. There's no coffee talk and only one way to please. It's a shame what you do moves me. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. Yeah, I'm not looking for a windswept view. Our change has changed. Nothing's new. Right hot new song that blues. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. If I could know what we'll do wrong, I'd take this smile. The only cure for this forward motion is this smile. The only cure for this forward motion is this smile. The only cure for this forward motion.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Rebellious 1776. My name is Lynn Hurley, and I am here with you to critique, criticize, and fact check our nation's politicians in real time. We love watching a congressional hearing around here because we want to know just what those sneaky little politicians are saying, and more importantly, what they're doing with our tax dollars. And today is a very important day to be watching them. And if you know someone else who would like to know that information and who wouldn't, it's pretty important information to know. Please feel free to share the love and share the show with them, and then just sit back, grab yourself a snack and a drink. And if you're watching with us live, and I hope that you are, please do join us in the chat. It's going to be an interesting day. We got a lot to talk about. And we always talk about what's going on as we're watching our nation's finest in action. And we are going to watch a little bit of a hearing today. I don't know if we're going to get to watch the whole thing, we've got a lot to cover because there's a lot going on. And if you do like talking all things politics, why not go ahead and hit that subscribe button? It's not going to bite. Just give it a little boop and you'll be good to go. Don't forget to hit all for the notification bell. I can get it out. Promise I can. And that way you'll be notified anytime we have a new show coming up because sometimes, just like these congressional hearings, our shows will pop up out of nowhere because sometimes they are last minute. Like today was supposed to be about appliances, as riveting as that is. They, of course, changed it because of what happened over the weekend. So, hello, everybody. So nice to see you. Hey, Timmy, how are you? Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you're here. And Jenny, hey, how are you? How are you? Thank you so much for being here. And thank you. It's so nice to see you today on my birthday. What a surprise. We have to get together soon. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Chris, how are you? Thank you, thank you. And David Hurley. It was Dave's birthday yesterday. So everybody make sure you say happy birthday to Dave as well. Our birthdays are only a day apart, which makes it really, really easy. So we just celebrate one birthday. It's very concise. It's great. Yes, Chris knows. It was Dave's birthday. Tim, yeah, so glad that you're here. Thank you, Cassie. How are you? So nice to see you. Yes, boop it, as Chris says. Boop that subscribe button. Thank you so much. So nice to see you guys here. And I know our people are going to be rolling in. A lot of our folks tend to roll in a little bit later, but that's okay. We always have fun and we're here whenever they're getting off work and can join us. Hey, Snoop. Yes. Yes. Tax day is my birthday. Yeah. It's how Uncle Sam says happy birthday every year to me. And Dave's might as well be about the same. So, yeah. Yeah. Nobody can forget my birthday. Everybody looks forward to it. They do not. They don't, but thank you guys so much. And thank you, Snoop. Yeah, you know what? It is what it is, right? By the time my birthday rolls around, we pretty much already know what's going to happen one way or the other, tax wise. So it's okay. It is what it is. So we just have fun with it. Government extortion day, my lovely husband says. That's right. Government theft, as he likes to call it. Okay, guys, it's been a crazy weekend. And I don't know if you guys have been watching the news today, but it's been a crazy day. Yes, that's true. I saw Chris has a new Mind Forked video out. Or what do you call, is there a term for them, Chris, of those particular type of videos? The FTV videos, the Remembrance Day videos. It's like the day in history. Today is Titanic Remembrance Day. Yeah. It's a double whammy. Tax day and the Titanic on my birthday. Yeah. Super duper. Great. But thankfully, it is a beautiful day here in Ohio. I got to go outside. I did some gardening. I hung out with the chickens. Day in history. Day in history, of course. Duh, I totally forgot. That's what those are called. So yes, Chris has a day in history. And oh my goodness. Okay, guys, we're gonna start watching this hearing really quick. Hold on 2 seconds. Hey, can you hold on just a second? Are you there? Okay, hold on 2 seconds. All right, guys, I'm going to turn the congressional hearing on for you because my daughter Charlie's calling and she's in France. Otherwise, I wouldn't take the call. Well, I'm in the middle of doing a show. We're doing a show live right now. So I'm going to turn the congressional hearing on for you guys. And we'll have that on while I say a quick hi to Charlie because, like I said, she is in France right now. Very exciting. So let me get this pulled up and we will watch this. And I'm going to say a quick hi to Charlie and I'll tell her you guys
Great friend
hi as well.
Our major non-NATO ally and the lone democracy in the region on Saturday. Congress must show the world Israel has the right to defend itself. America fully stands behind the Israeli people and will not hesitate to provide them with the latitude and tools that Israel needs to repel yet another threat to their very existence. H-Res 1143 denounces Iran's brazen and unprecedented act of aggression and ensures that the House's position on this is crystal clear. We cannot afford to miss this opportunity to show the world that we unequivocally condemn Saturday's unconscionable act of escalation. The House must also confront a disturbing reality. Without unequivocal support for Israel, President Biden has appeased Iran and put us on a trajectory to this dark hour. Less than a year after Hamas brutally murdered more than 1,000 Israelis and took hundreds of hostages, including American citizens, on October 7th, President Biden, number one, signaled his willingness to break with Prime Minister Netanyahu on a hot mic on the House floor, and two, issued a press release calling for an immediate one-sided ceasefire in Gaza, and three, failed to use our veto as a member of the United Nations Security Council to stop an anti-Israeli ceasefire resolution. For decades, America's ironclad backing of the Jewish state was a bedrock of security. But now, unfortunately, thanks to vacillation, that bedrock is shattered, and Iran was emboldened to directly attack Israel from its own territory for the very first time. The president also has a long history of appeasing Iran with sanctions relief, unlocking funds for the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. In November 2023 alone, this administration reissued a sanctions waiver, most recently renewed last month, that gave Iran access to more than $10 billion. H.R. 5947 will rescind certain waivers and licenses the White House could use to circumvent the will of Congress on this matter and the matter of the $6 billion in sanctions relief for hostage negotiations in September of 2023. H.R. 6323, the Iran Counterintelligence Act, prevents President Biden from continuing this trend of financial appeasement by requiring Iran to have ceased support for acts of international terrorism as a prerequisite for the administration to waive secondary sanctions. This bill also provides for a congressional review process for national security interest waivers of these sanctions. Additionally, H.R. 4691, the Iranian Sanctions Relief Review Act, will ensure that the president submits any sanctions relief relating to Iran for congressional review. The legislation would provide a backstop if the executive branch attempts to evade the legal requirements for congressional review of any requirement related to Iran's nuclear program contained in the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act. Iran is not alone in its assault on our steadfast ally. The Houthi movement is one of the Ayatollah's valued terror partners and joined this weekend's air assault, launching several drones with intent to harm Israel. For months, they have also been harassing international shipping and American assets in the region. President Trump had the good sense to designate them as a terrorist organization in 2021. President Biden's State Department recklessly rescinded this designation during his first week in office, only to embarrassingly reverse course this year. H.R. 6046, the Standing Against Houthi Aggression Act, provides a more comprehensive foreign terrorist organization designation. I certainly look forward to joining my colleagues in supporting these efforts to back Israel, to condemn Iran and its terrorist proxies, and stop the White House campaign of appeasement. Finally, we will consider H.R. 4639. The Fourth Amendment is Not for Sale Act. This prevents law enforcement and intelligence agencies from buying Americans' personal data from third-party brokers. I look forward to hearing the perspectives of colleagues on the Judiciary Committee on this important issue of data privacy. I'm now pleased to yield to our ranking member, Mr. McGovern, for any comments he wishes to make.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And let me start by saying that I was also extremely concerned to see Iran's attack on Israel over the weekend. And I, like many of my colleagues on the Democratic side and on the Republican side here in the House, strongly condemned those attacks. Look, we have serious challenges in the world, challenges that require American leadership, challenges to the rules and institutions that have made the world a more peaceful place. challenges from emboldened dictators who want to oppress people and undermine democracy. And you'd think with all that's on the line, you would think that with all that is on the line, Republicans would try to work with Democrats to defend our values abroad. Maybe we could even have a constructive conversation about how to save lives and de-escalate tensions so this doesn't become a broader conflict. But at the very least, you'd think, is that we could work together to say that politics stops at the water's edge. You'd think that, but you'd be wrong. What we are seeing here today is a fake response to a very real crisis. Now, let me read an excerpt of what our leader, our Democratic leader, had to say. This is the first reaction from our side. Leader Jeffries said, quote, "America's commitment to Israel's security is ironclad and unbreakable. Iran will not succeed. We stand with the people of Israel during this moment of significant challenge," end quote. Now, contrast that with the Republican Speaker, Mike Johnson. Here's an excerpt from his first statement after Iran's attack. Quote, "The Biden administration's undermining of Israel and appeasement of Iran have contributed to these terrible developments," end quote. Now, I was hoping he was an outlier, but I scrolled through social media and it was post after post of Republican talking points basically attacking Joe Biden. I think the other side blames our own president for this attack more than they blame the supreme leader of Iran. The distinguished chairman of this committee just said something that I have to make strong objection to when he said that President Biden advocated a one-sided ceasefire. That implies that he advocated a ceasefire where Israel would basically do nothing and everybody else could continue to bomb Israel. That's just patently false. That is a distortion of what the president has advocated. Meanwhile, what has Joe Biden done? Joe Biden is the one who ordered the U.S. military to defend Israel. Joe Biden defended Israeli airspace. Our military, with President Biden as commander-in-chief, shot down more than 70 Iranian drones and 3 ballistic missiles this weekend. I mean, when Donald Trump was president, Iran didn't attack Israel. They attacked us. And they bombed U.S. troops. And alongside Israel, the UK, Jordan, and others, President Biden helped ensure that 99% of the projectiles fired by Iran were intercepted. That is real, my friends. That's concrete. That is tangible. These bills before us today, they aren't real. They're fluff. Not one of these bills under consideration this week would prevent Iran from carrying out future attacks. Not one of these bills strengthens Israel's defense system. Not one. And the craziest part is that this majority wants to bring up these bills to pretend like they're doing something. But meanwhile, they passed a bill to sanction Iranian leaders 6 months ago, and they still haven't sent it to the Senate. Why hasn't that bill gone to the Senate? Last month, March 19th, during our committee meeting, I pointed out that their bill, HR 589, had not been sent to the Senate yet. And it still hasn't been sent to the Senate yet. What the hell are they waiting for? Our allies don't need more empty promises or do-nothing exercises in political messaging. They need our help. Now, one option is to bring up the bipartisan emergency national security supplemental bill up for a vote. The Senate passed it 2 months ago. Why has Speaker Johnson refused to bring it to the floor for a vote? That's the fastest option. If the bill passes the House, it can go straight to the president's desk. If there's another option, let's hear it. But instead, Republicans are playing politics with a global crisis, blaming Joe Biden instead of Iran, and siding with Putin, an ally of Iran, instead of helping Ukraine. You won't hear them even mention Ukraine. Not a peep. Not a peep. Even though Iran and Russia are allies. Even though Ukraine is also being bombarded by Iranian drones. Even though Ukraine is literally begging us for help because they don't have an Iron Dome like Israel does. And still to this day, the pro-Putin caucus in the House continues to parrot Putin's talking points and mimic Kremlin propaganda. It is not just wrong, it is incredibly dangerous. And I will say it again, we are at a turning point. Are Iran and Russia and their allies going to write the next chapter of world history? Or will it be written by people who share our values and stand up for democracy? Is America going to lead the free world as we have always done, or are we not? We can't pick and choose. We need to stand with our friends all the time. And we need more than a slew of messaging bills and non-binding resolutions that don't actually provide help to our allies. I mean, we are meeting at a time when Ukraine is literally out of ammunition. I mean, are we going to just sit back and let Vladimir Putin invade Ukraine? Is that what is in the Republican talking points, that somehow this is an okay thing to do? I mean, we ought to be dealing with that instead of with the bills that that are before us today. And I got to remind you, it's Iranian drones that are being used by Russia to target Ukrainian civilians, and not a peep about Ukraine. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Representative Young Kim, Representative Emmanuel Cleaver from the Committee on Financial Services. Representative Kim, I welcome your testimony.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the chairman and the members of the Rules Committee for considering HR 6323, the Iran Counterterrorism Act. Israel is confronting critical moment as it fights for its right to exist. Iran and its proxies continue to attack our greatest ally in the Middle East and the lone democracy in the region. As a key financial supporter of Hamas, Iran has sought to indirectly wage war against our Israeli allies. This was demonstrated by Hamas' barbaric attack on October 7th. Now, Iran's hostility has become direct. Last weekend, Iran attacked Israel with drones and missiles launched from Iranian soil. This shows how the Ayatollahs are seeking to open up another front as Israel fights for survival. Iran's aggression underlines the need for greater congressional oversight when the executive branch waives US sanctions of Tehran. That is the focus of HR 6323. Under current law, the United States imposes secondary sanctions against foreign financial institutions that do business with blacklisted Iranians. However, using the law's waiver authority, President Biden eased some of the sanctions last September. Just as Hamas was preparing its assault, the Biden administration greenlit the transfer of $6 billion in Iranian funds in exchange for the release of 5 American hostages. The waiver did nothing to deter Iran from its continued attempts to destroy Israel. HR 6323 does not affect past waivers, but it will help ensure that waiver authority cannot be abused. This bill would require Iran to end its support for international terrorism before another waiver could be invoked. If Iran continues to fund terror and the White House seeks a sanctions waiver, this legislation will give Congress a period to review that action. It will also give Congress an opportunity to reject a misguided waiver. That is common sense. The bill does not discriminate between a Republican and Democratic administrations. Any president that wishes to facilitate Iran's access to the global financial system will have to notify Congress 30 days in advance or 60 days in the period if the period overlaps with the August district work period. The review period will allow Congress to examine the merits of the waiver and pass a joint resolution of disapproval under expedited procedures, which would prevent the waiver from taking effect. Alternatively, Congress can choose to support a waiver or not to act at all. In both of those cases, the waiver could go forward. HR 6323 does not prejudge future waivers. It simply gives the members a say before Tehran can get its hands on any funds. This congressional review process is taken from an existing law targeting Russia. The Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, which passed the House in 2017 by a vote of 419 to 3 votes. We can all agree that Tehran deserves as much scrutiny as Moscow. So let me finish with this. Nothing in HR 6323 affects existing sanctions exemptions on food, medicine, medical devices. These are blanket exceptions that Congress has already built into the sanctions laws that we are discussing, and nothing in this legislation would change that. The Financial Services Committee passed this legislation in November by a bipartisan vote of 30 to 19. I'm confident that it will receive support from members of both sides of the aisle if it is considered on the House floor. So I urge all of my colleagues to take action to confront Iran and stand with our ally, Israel. I again want to thank the committee for its time, and I look forward to the members' questions.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you and the ranking member, McGovern, for the opportunity to testify regarding my grave concerns with HR 6323. After decades of a shadow war between Israel and Iran and months of combat between Israel and Hamas that has resulted in the thousands of deaths among civilians, this weekend's attack by Iran has brought us even closer to the precipice of an all-out Middle East war. Let me be clear. This attack put innocent civilian lives at risk and was a rash and unacceptable decision by Iranian leaders. But this bill is certainly not the answer. This bill does nothing, absolutely nothing, to stop or deter Iran from attacking Israel. Republicans are rushing to pass HR 6323 on incredibly short notice, and that, my friends, is misguided. It's a knee-jerk response to this attack. But this bill would actually hamstring the administration's ability to react quickly. And things are evolving so quickly. If we don't have that ability, the president does not have that ability, we are ultimately endangering our national security. It reverses the longstanding target of our Iranian sanctions regime from corrupt Iranian officials and terrorist leaders to innocent Iranian civilians by obstructing humanitarian aid. It would also create a rift in our international relationship with allies who would not support cutting off humanitarian aid and who are critical to helping enforce our sanctions regime. Ultimately, the only likely outcome of passing this bill will be causing harm to our standing in the world as a champion for humanitarian assistance. Now, let me be clear, a couple of misconceptions that appear to be underpinning this bill. The first misconception is that the Biden administration has weakened sanctions on Iran. This couldn't be further from the truth. The Biden administration's Iran sanctions program is the most extensive set of comprehensive sanctions against any country. In fact, the Biden administration has ramped up pressure on Iran since the Trump administration by imposing sanctions on hundreds of additional individuals and entities for activity related to Iran, including the illicit sale of Iranian oil. The Biden administration also successfully seized a tanker carrying Iranian oil, which was the first ever criminal resolution involving a company that violated sanctions by facilitating the illicit sales and transport of Iranian oil. This is according to the United States Department of Justice. Moreover, this bill does not create any new sanctions or strengthen any existing sanctions. Instead, it removes the administration's existing authority to waive sanctions if the president determines that such a waiver is vital to the national security of the United States. Today, the president must provide Congress a justification for the waiver and such waiver cannot exceed 180 days. The president also must notify Congress if the waiver is renewed. This authority is decades old and has been used sparingly and transparently and has been critical in allowing the president to respond quickly in emergency situations. H.R. 6323 would hamstring this authority by requiring Congress to first approve any decision to provide a waiver. This bill would further require the president to obtain Congress's approval for any renewal of the waiver. Now, let's be honest, it took this chamber 5 months into the fiscal year to fund the government. This bill would effectively make it impossible for the president and all future presidents, Republican and Democratic, to use this waiver authority in response to threats to our national security. In particular, humanitarian crises would be deemed a matter of national security for purposes of this waiver authority, which brings me to the second misconception underpinning this bill. Some have erroneously contended that humanitarian exceptions to sanctions are a significant source of funding that allows Iran to support terrorism because the funds are diverted from terrorist activity, or because any funds spent on goods and services for the people of Iran will free up an equal amount of Iran's terrorist activities. These are both absurd. Iran's government never directly receives the funds transferred for humanitarian transactions through sanctions waivers and licenses. The money goes straight to non-governmental organizations, NGOs, which provide goods and services directly to the Iranian people, and there are safeguards in place to prevent diversions via theft or corruption, including U.S. approval and verification of every single transaction. Further, for the so-called fungibility argument to be true, it would also have to be true that the Iranian government is spending significant sums of money on humanitarian activities today. I would love to find out when and how that's being done. But Iran's brutal, selfish regime, however, has never prioritized its people, choosing instead to spend billions annually on kleptocracy, its nuclear proliferation program, and terrorist proxies, including Hamas. Humanitarian exceptions to sanctions have long had bipartisan support, including under the Trump administration. This is largely because providing humanitarian relief for people in need is a basic moral imperative that respects human dignity, regardless of where one resides. This bill reflects a dangerous shift in Republicans' approach to sanctions that endangers basic American values by restricting our ability to respond to humanitarian crises and by punishing innocent people instead of targeting bad actors. Current sanctions are designed to target Iranian leaders and terrorists. By severely hampering the administration's waiver authority, this bill would make innocent people in Iran, the subject of our sanctions instead of focusing our energy on actual bad actors. America's allies like Europe and Japan, and whom we rely on to implement our sanctions, would be far less inclined to support our efforts if we take efforts to harm the innocent people of Iran. Mr. Chairman, members of this committee, H.R. 6323 will do nothing to stop or even deter Iran from attacking Israel again, nor will it end the humanitarian disaster and war in Gaza or help any of our allies under attack by authoritarian regimes. This bill does nothing to help Ukraine, Taiwan, or any other country that we claim to have their backs. Instead, this bill will have America abandon its long commitment to supporting innocent people struggling under brutal regimes of terrorists and authoritarians. I urge you, please, reject this bill and affirm that America will continue to be a beacon of hope for people around the globe. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Thanks, gentlemen. Gentleman yields back, and thank both of you for your thoughtful testimony. I'm going to defer my questions to the end and recognize Ms. Fishbach for her questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Kim, I want to thank you for bringing this forward, and thank you for appearing here today and telling us about it. But Representative Kim, I just want to have one question about what opportunities, if any, exist for congressional review and oversight of the secondary sanction waivers? What opportunities? Yeah, for oversight, yep.
Well, first of all, we're trying to bring back the congressional.
Microphone, dear.
Whenever the administration decides to use the waiver authority that is already in the law. Remember what happened a month before October 7th in Muslims.
Their room's too small. They can still hear her, so they don't realize she doesn't have her microphone turned on, I think.
Our administration decided to release that $6 billion. And I know we were all concerned, we talked about that, the money is fungible, as you said. We all know that. While we know that the money may not have gone to.
Oh, the guy's coming around to turn it on.
Regime, we do know that the Iranian president has stated we can use the money anytime, anywhere at his own disposal. Those are the things that we are trying to put together some sort of a guardrail. So nothing in this legislation, says that the president cannot waive those sanctions that is already existed. What we're trying to do is bring back the congressional review authority back to Congress before before president or any administration, Republican or Democrat, does that.
Thank you very much. And I did just want to point out that the House did pass
Yes.
funding for Israel, and the Senate chose to ignore it. So, that we did do our part, and the Senate has not acted on that. So just wanted to point that out. And again, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I yield back, but I think I'm yielding to me. Yeah, okay.
You're now in charge.
Yeah, I guess I am. And I would recognize Mr. McGovern.
Yeah, I'm going to be brief because I know the Republicans have a conference at 5:30. Two countries are being bombed, and we're here talking about congressional oversight of the Biden administration. It is almost kind of comical that that's where the focus is. But, I think this bill really is less about being against Iran and more about being against Joe Biden, who, as I mentioned in my opening statement, Republicans kind of fell over each other, just trying to blame him for everything that happened over the weekend.
If I may.
Yes.
Mr. McGovern, I think what we're discussing, and this week we're discussing a lot of the bills to make sure that we are countering what Iran has done over the weekend. So by addressing and debating and trying to pass these bills, we are sending a message that what Iran has done over the weekend, directly attacking Israel from their own soil, is what we are sending a strong message that we are condemning what Iran has done.
Well, I guess what I would say to you, that I think they got the message because President Biden helped defend Israeli airspace. We helped knock down 99% of the incoming drones and missiles that were aimed for Israel. That President Biden made it very clear that we have an ironclad relationship with Israel. I think that is quite frankly, a more persuasive message to Iran than what we're doing here. There's nothing in your bill, and if you would like to respond, that would stop Iran from bombing Israel. Is there?
Well, first of all, we need to, this week, along with passing my bill and others, I'm sure that's going to come before your Rules Committee today, we are going to be addressing the AIDS package. And I truly believe that that is an action that we're taking directly to show that we care about our allies and our friends, and the actions that we're taking, and the leadership bringing forward legislation to continue to fund our activities in Iran. Supporting our allies. I think it is sending a strong message.
I think you just made news because I haven't heard Speaker Johnson yet announce that we have a deal or a package that's coming to the House floor.
Yes, there is an ongoing negotiation.
I know, it's been
leadership.
ongoing for months, which is really getting pretty tiring right now. But let me just ask you, as you know, that we're meeting in the Rules Committee. This is an emergency meeting. And I assume, that you believe we have to have an emergency meeting because Iranian drones and missiles were targeted at Israeli military base. Am I correct? I mean, that's why we're meeting today.
Iran has responded because, yes,
right,
we
okay.
have attacked in Damascus,
So,
Syria,
all right,
right?
so you think this is emergency, as I'll do on my colleagues? I guess I would just ask, as you know, Iranian drones are being used by Russia against Ukrainians as we speak. The only difference there is that there's no Iron Dome in Ukraine. And so Ukrainian civilians are being killed by those Iranian drones that are being supplied to Russia. Do you think that that's an emergency?
I think there's the reason why we are addressing the funding aid package. And I personally, I mean, the leadership is debating on the possible funding vehicle. I don't want to get ahead of the leadership as to what vehicle they will be using, but I'm of the opinion that we have to stand with our allies and friends and provide the continued support. And that, to me, if you are asking for my personal
No, I'm just, I mean,
opinion, we need to fund Ukraine, we need to fund Israel, we need to fund our
Right,
Indo-Pacific allies,
but-
so
but-
we can send a strong message that United States is standing very strong with our allies.
But with all due respect, I mean, you're here, representing the Republican leadership, testifying on behalf of bringing up.
I'm
this-
testifying on behalf of my
Right,
legislation.
well, you're, but I mean, you're here to, I mean, but I mean, I guess when are we getting, what does the Ukraine package look like that you are talking about? Have you seen it? I haven't seen it, and. you
Like
know
I
what-
said, the leadership is in negotiations on the funding package, and they are looking for a vehicle to do it. And I think this is a perfect time to do it, especially as we saw that Iran has been attacking our closest ally, Israel, using the proxies, but this is the first time they are doing
Right.
it directly from
Right.
Iranian soil. So that has given us the impetus,
Yeah.
the
And that
urgency
point
Iran has
to
been-
work on
they're
all
also
these.
providing the
attacking us
same
using their
deadly
proxies over in the Middle East.
weaponry to Russia, who is using it against Ukrainian civilians. The difference is Ukraine does not have an Iron Dome. Those drones are getting through and they're killing people. Did you want to?
Yes, thank you, Mr. McGovern.
Okay,
Look,
first of
I
all,
think,
let's just be like
I'm
upfront and
rather
honest.
weird,
Ukraine does have
in
defense,
Congress, because I think
not defenseless.
everybody in this room is furious with what happened this past weekend when Iranian, without being attacked in their country, launched over 300 missiles toward Israel. It is also a point of pride, I think, that American jets were up in the air helping to shoot down those missiles. And I think it is appropriate for us to figure out how we can be more helpful with this whole situation that we're facing, which is in the Middle East and Europe. And if Congress does not approve of a way for today, it can pass a bill to stop it. But when we start talking about requiring Congress to act, look, I've been here almost 20 years. I have a pretty good view of Congress, and we have no history in recent days of acting swiftly. Or maybe I missed it, but I think we struggle to pass legislation because our nation is, now I think poisonously political and partisan, and it's not helping us.
Right, let
I'm
me
not
make
saying
it,
you're trying to be.
right. This
and-
legislation does not, take away the president's waiver authority. And I think I heard earlier that you want the president to waive sanctions on Iran quickly, right? My legislation has language for Congress to consider the joint resolution of disapproval under expedited procedures. And I share your concerns that we also cannot stop our humanitarian assistance and food assistance. So nothing in this legislation touches those authorities. There are blanket exceptions to allow sanctions relief for humanitarian assistance. So I think we need to send a strong message by passing this legislation. Condemn Iran for what it has done, but we are just asking the president, to give us the congressional review authority, and he has the 30 days to do it, 60 days, as I mentioned, if the period falls under the August district recess.
That's my
Yeah.
final statement, or maybe it's a question. If we pass this today, if we pass this on the end, all of this in Congress today, what will happen that will address the most pressing issues we're facing in terms of, what kind of response do we have to what the Iranians did? What about the weaponry needed in the Ukraine? What about humanitarian aid? I'm just saying, I agree. This is a tough spot right now for us to be in. All I just want to know how the bill addresses any of those issues.
Let me just state once again that this congressional review process is taken from an existing law targeting Russia, right? The Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. This passed unanimously, I should say overwhelmingly, in 2017, as I mentioned earlier, by a vote of 419 to 3. We can all agree that Tehran deserves as much scrutiny as Moscow did, and that's the whole purpose of my legislation.
I would just say, and let me wrap this up. I would just say that I do find it astounding that in the aftermath of two countries being bombed, that my Republican friends' opening salvo here is more congressional oversight of the Biden administration. To your point about how this place is, you didn't say this, I'll say it, dysfunctional, can't be stated enough. I don't know whether you know this, but the last bill that the Rules Committee reported to the House floor that actually went anywhere, that became law, was almost 10 months ago. That's how, this is unprecedented, the dysfunction here. I mean, we have members, Ms. Kim, of your party who blame Joe Biden for the earthquake that just happened. I mean, it is stunning to me.
I didn't.
Well, you have members that do, who seem to be calling the shots around this Congress. And again, as we speak, Iranian drones are being used by Russia to pummel people in Ukraine. And the only difference between that and what happened in Israel
that's not the
is that
only
there
thing.
is no Iron Dome. And so, I mean, the idea that, and I appreciate you being here, and I know this is your bill, and you're not here to answer for anything, but the Republican leadership determined that this first day back, this is what we have to do. This is what we have to do. And I have to tell, I met with a group of Ukrainians this morning. I mean, things are so desperate. So desperate. And as of right now, nobody can tell me, unless you can tell us, that there'll be a vote on Ukraine aid tomorrow or the next day or this week, or then we're off next week. I get it that there's division within your conference over helping Ukraine, and that there are people who have no problem with Vladimir.
Hey guys, I am going to pause this because the House floor is back live and they're going to be talking about some emergency measures. So I'm going to bring us over there to see that.
And this bill addresses one that perhaps does not
Let me
get
know
as
if you
much
guys can hear that
attention
okay.
as it should. As part of our aggressive oversight efforts, the Ways and Means Committee has been examining the behavior of U.S.-based organizations that enjoy generous tax exemptions and other benefits under our tax code. That investigation included a hearing in November of last year following the horrific attacks on Israel by Hamas terrorists. During that hearing, one witness, a terrorism financing expert, remarked on how this legislation would serve as a valuable tool to not just the Treasury Department, but the Department of Justice and the FBI to identify and disrupt terrorism-related activities on U.S. soil. We must continue to look into the actions of certain tax-exempt groups that are suspected of financing the activities of known terrorist organizations like Hamas. One example is the Holy Land Foundation. This tax-exempt organization funneled over $12 million in donations from Americans to fund Hamas before it was shut down by the US government in the early 2000s. We also suspect that there are other groups that are operating in the United States that are providing material support to known terrorist organizations, including Hamas. It should go without saying that America's tax code should not be used to support or finance violent terrorism around the world. However, we have to be
Terrorists should not be
vigilant
getting tax
in the
exempt status.
face of groups that seek to exploit the generosity of the American people and American taxpayers. We should ensure they cannot funnel resources to those that target civilians and harm our citizens and our allies. I call on all my colleagues to support this legislation, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of H.R. 6408, and I am proud to support this important legislation today and proud that it is being brought to the floor in a bipartisan way. I'm proud to have worked to bring this to the floor with my fellow Ways and Means colleague, Representative David Kustoff from Tennessee. As was mentioned this past weekend, Iran launched an unprecedented attack on Israel for the very first time from Iranian territory, firing cruise and ballistic missiles as well as suicide attack drones. Thankfully, again, as was noted, a coalition of Israeli, US, UK, Jordanian, French, and other allies coordinated a remarkable defense, defeating 99% of the missiles and drones before they were able to reach their intended targets. This achievement reflects the power of alliances. Alliances we have worked incredibly hard to build and need to work to always maintain. Iran, on the other hand, is aligned with groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and militias in Iraq and Syria. Iran is the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, backing a broad group of terrorist organizations in the region and across the world. In fact, just last week, a court in Argentina concluded that it was Iran that planned the fatal attack against the Jewish Community Center in 1994, 30 years ago, and the court declared it a crime against humanity. The alliances we create must be able to stand up to the horrific alliances that Iran is trying to build. And that's why this legislation is so important. As the attacks of October 7th highlighted, we must be doing everything we can to assist allies like Israel, to disempower the enemies who seek to do not just our allies harm, in the case of Hamas, to destroy the Jewish state and kill the Jewish people, but to also attack the United States. And this was made even clearer this weekend when Iran launched its multifaceted assault on Israel. That's why Speaker Johnson must bring the Senate-passed legislation providing for Israeli security assistance, as well as funding to help our allies in Ukraine and Taiwan. We have to have the Senate bill come to the floor for a House so it can immediately go to the president's desk for signature to assist these allies who are facing these threats. The Senate passed it in a deeply bipartisan vote, and I have no doubt it would have the votes to pass in the House if the Speaker would just bring it to the floor. We cannot dither or wait. The Iranian attacks over the weekend demonstrate the serious urgency with which we must act, and anything less than the passage of the Senate-passed aid bill will be grossly insufficient. As members of the House Ways and Means Committee, it is our job to be good stewards of the tax code, to ensure its faithful enforcement, and to empower the Treasury Department to go after tax cheats. As my colleague mentioned, we must look into the acts of groups like the Holy Land Foundation and others who are potentially providing material support for terrorist groups. We must do everything we can to cut off from financing groups like Hamas and other terrorist organizations and errant nonprofit organizations that have been prosecuted for funneling money to Hamas and others. These organizations must be held accountable for providing material support to terrorist organizations. And as this legislation makes clear, these organizations must never be allowed to enjoy the privilege of tax exempt status. Financiers who exploit tax-exempt status to hide their nefarious work behind nonprofit organizations must be held accountable. And doing so plays an important role in our work to combat the financing of terrorist organizations like Hamas. This bill ensures Treasury has the tools necessary to do exactly that, while also providing thoughtful safeguards that protect due process. That's why I'm proud to be able to bring this bill to the floor today. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield as much time as he may consume to the sponsor of this legislation, the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Kustoff.
Recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I do want to thank Chairman Jason Smith, not only for his leadership in this legislation, this bill, but also for his support. H.R. 6408, it's an important bipartisan piece of legislation that will revoke the tax-exempt status for any organization that provides financial support or resources to designated terrorist groups, such as Hamas or Hezbollah. And I do want to thank my colleague, Representative Brad Snyder, for joining me in introducing what I think is a very important bill. There's no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that since Hamas's barbaric attack on Israel, we've seen a dramatic rise in anti-Semitism and, frankly, anti-Israel motivated attacks here at home and around the world. In fact, we saw it here in the United States today. Israel's recent attack on our ally Israel was a stark reminder of why we must confront Iran and its terrorist proxy groups. These same groups have also increased attacks on American troops in the region. Acts of terror anywhere in the world, they will not be tolerated. Now, a crucial pillar in the global fight against terrorism is dismantling the financial networks of terrorist organizations. Without access to resources and funding, terrorist organizations are seriously restricted in their ability to carry out attacks in the very first place. Recent reports indicate that there are U.S.-based nonprofits that are suspected of providing support and funding to terrorist groups. That's an amazing statement to make. But many of these organizations, they have special 501c tax-exempt status, which allows their donors to claim a tax deduction. To put it plainly, domestic financiers of terrorism are currently being subsidized by U.S. taxpayer dollars. And let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker, no American should receive a tax benefit for funding terrorism. Right now, our ability to crack down on tax-exempt organizations that support terrorism is frankly inadequate. Doing so under current law requires a time-consuming bureaucratic process that has sometimes prevented federal authorities from acting. And that's why we introduced this crucial legislation that we'll be voting on hopefully later today. This legislation will authorize the United States Treasury to revoke the tax-exempt status of any organization deemed to provide material support or resources to a designated terrorist group within the past 3 years. Material support, it includes financing, services, training, any tangible or intangible aid that helps terrorist groups advance their objectives. Under no circumstances should organizations that support terrorism be allowed to receive preferential treatment under the United States tax code. This bill, Mr. Speaker, is a crucial step towards dismantling the financial networks of terrorist organizations across the globe, including Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. I urge all my colleagues, Mr. Speaker, to support this important bipartisan piece of legislation that will bring us one step closer to eradicating terrorism around the world. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I thank you and I yield back.
The yields. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to yield as much time as he may consume to the gentleman from Connecticut, Congressman Larson.
And from Connecticut is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to first and foremost commend Brad and David for their incredible work, and also point out that it's not often when you bring out a piece of legislation that you author that you get an opportunity to have your mother in the audience and observe, well, that that legislation is about to be voted on, as it was in the committee. And I commend Chairman Smith. This is an important piece of legislation. And as David was just saying, no one should ever receive a tax benefit for aiding and abetting terrorists. It's just absurd, but sometimes it takes common sense, practical individuals to stand up and make sure that we get this right, and I commend both of these gentlemen for their outstanding work. I also thank and want to thank Mr. Schneider for bringing this up. What we experienced on Saturday was incredible, but demonstrates when nations stick together in common bond as allies against terrorism and terrorist attack, good things can transpire and happen. The attack on Israel on Saturday, to have been thwarted in the way that it was by both Israel, the United States, and our allies, the world was taking notice. But as Mr. Schneider pointed out, the world is also taking notice this weekend on what's transpiring in the Ukraine. Imagine during this same time, 130 drones, 80 missiles, 700 bombs, just in last week alone, were directed at the people of Ukraine. The supplemental the president asked for back in October, the Senate passed a supplemental bill more than 2 months ago. That bill is sitting in this chamber, waiting for Congress, the House of Representatives, to stand up on behalf of the Ukrainian people, on behalf of our allies. The world is watching while the House of Representatives dithers. People's lives are at stake. This is nothing short of a catastrophic tragedy for the people of Ukraine, as they must watch aghast as the House of Representatives sits and does not take action to come to their aid and relief. It's long overdue,
No, I think it's one
as
of
this
the offsets of
legislation
the bill,
does,
but
for us to act in a bipartisan basis.
goodness.
There is no question, America, that if this bill, the supplemental bill, is brought to the floor, that's been passed by the Senate, that sits here waiting for our approval, will pass overwhelmingly and bipartisanly. Stop holding the supplemental back.
Was he a
Bring it
pastor in a past
forward.
life?
Provide the people of the Ukraine the relief they need. Provide the humanitarian relief for the Palestinians. Make sure that Israel and Taiwan
Sounds
get
like
the
a Baptist
fortification
minister.
and
Can you hear it?
support that they need
The
from the
Lord
American
wants you
government. That is
provide
our
relief to the
responsibility.
Ukraine.
I don't know how people can go
Will you
home
listen
and
to
look in the
message
mirror
from the Lord?
knowing that a valued ally of ours has put so much on the line and is standing up to Putin, standing up to a dictator
We need to
standing
stand
up to a
the
tyrant
evils in this
who's
world.
using the same formula as Adolf Hitler. Rise up, Congress. Do your job.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, David, for your bill.
Praise baby Jesus.
I reserve.
Amen.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
We're prepared
He
to
missed his
close.
calling. I'm telling you, he should have been a Baptist.
Gentleman
preacher.
reserves. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have no further speakers at this time. I'm prepared to close.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank my friend, John Larson, for his passionate words, his urgent plea to pass the essential national security legislation that will bring aid to our allies in Ukraine,
Power of the
in
Lord is
Israel,
within you.
and in Taiwan. Enjoying tax-exempt status under Section 501 of the tax code is indeed a privilege. As good stewards of the U.S. tax code, it is our duty to ensure the Treasury Department has the tools it needs to enforce this section. At a time of great threat to our allies, and in particular to Israel, from Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, we must exercise all powers at our disposal to constrain funding for these terrorist organizations, including combating errant nonprofit organizations based here in the United States who are providing material support for these groups overseas. I again want to thank my colleague, Representative Kustoff, for his partnership and work on this legislation. I want to thank Ranking Member Neal and Chairman Smith for your leadership. And I urge all of my colleagues to not only support this legislation, but also, as we have said, to support the essential security funding that came from the Senate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back the balance of my time.
Yields. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself the remainder of my time.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The United States must use every tool in our toolbox to combat organizations that threaten America and our allies like Israel. That includes going after the flow of money and resources from U.S.-based so-called charitable organizations to the terrorist groups that murder civilians around the world. We cannot turn a blind eye to entities that support terrorism and known terrorist groups while exploiting our tax code to cover their tracks and pursue their malicious goals. It is unacceptable for any organization to receive taxpayer support while they are funneling millions of dollars to Hamas, an organization responsible for the horrific attacks against the people of Israel on October 7th. We must do more to ensure such groups are not able to operate under the cover of our tax code. I urge all my colleagues to vote yes on this measure, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 6408 as amended? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative,
Mr. Speaker,
this is the gentleman from Missouri seek recognition.
on that, I demand the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. All those in favor of taking this vote by yeas and nays will rise and remain standing until counted. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed.
All right, I'm not sure if they're going to do the vote now or if they're going to continue on with something else. So we'll just wait a minute to see what is happening at the House of Representatives. Roll call vote? I don't know. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, or if they're going to wait. I don't know if they may have some other things they want to discuss first and then do the votes all at the end. Sometimes they do that. So we'll just have to wait and see what's happening. They've turned off the mics so we can't hear. And you guys are all talking about, oh, yeah, go for it. I didn't make it up. The MSDNC, yeah. I can't remember where I heard it. somebody, I can't even remember. It's been a while now, but yeah. Oh yeah, go for it. Feel free. Use it. Enjoy. Oh my goodness. Lulu's snoring next to me. So if you guys hear, I don't know that you'll be able to. Of course, she's stopped now that I said her name. What is going on the house floor? Come on, let us in. We like to keep us in suspense. Now, I know they're talking, and Mike Johnson was talking yesterday about a bill to send aid to Israel. Of course, the question is he going to try to do it as a singular, very clean bill, which is what the Republicans have been saying. They want things to go in the direction of, as opposed to the big omnibus bill that like...
Gentleman from North Carolina, seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 5923, the Iran-China Energy Sanctions Act of 2023, as amended.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 272, H.R. 5923. A bill to impose restrictions on correspondent and payable through accounts in the United States with respect to Chinese financial institutions that conduct transactions involving the purchase of petroleum or petroleum products from Iran.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. McHenry, and the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Gottheimer, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on this bill.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of H.R. 5923, the Iran-China Energy Sanctions Act, sponsored by the gentleman from New York, Mr. Lawler. Currently, Iran is subject to a comprehensive set of sanctions. We know there are loopholes. Under current law, the president is required to blacklist foreign financial institutions that undertake significant transactions with sanctioned Iranian banks. However, we know that these significant transactions are leaving much of the country's energy trade untouched. Last year, Iran's oil exports rose by 50%, reaching a 5-year high. Most of these exports went to China. Mr. Lawler's bill makes clear that any petroleum-related transaction between Iran and China, no matter how small, will put Chinese banks at risk of being sanctioned. Closing this loophole is essential to ensuring China's financial institutions begin to finally crack down on this illicit oil trade. Additionally, I'm pleased to see this legislation includes a proposal offered by Mr. Foster of Illinois. When we reported this legislation in November, Mr. Foster and Mr. Lawler discussed the inclusion of tougher sanctions to target Iran's sales of unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs. This is now included in the text we're considering today. News of this weekend's actions by Iran against our most sacred ally in the world, Israel, is a good example of why we need this law and this bill. Iran has become a major supplier of UAV technologies to Russia and other rogue regimes. We see this in Ukraine. We saw that of the targeting of Israel this weekend. And providing the Ayatollahs with funds by these UAV sales, they can be recycled for terrorism purposes. The sooner we put an end to these exports, the better. And again, I want to thank Mr. Lawler for his leadership on authoring this bill, and I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support it. And with that, I will now yield to the gentleman from New York, Mr. Lawler, for as much time as he may consume.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your leadership in getting this bill to the floor. And I want to thank my colleague from New Jersey, Mr. Gottheimer, my co-lead on this bill. I rise in support of this legislation, H.R. 5923, the Iran-China Energy Sanctions Act. Iran is exporting around 1.5 million barrels of petroleum per day, its highest level in 4 years. Around 80% of these exports go to China, providing Tehran with revenues that keep their coffers filled and enable Iran's sponsorship of terrorism abroad, including backing Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Make no mistake, the October 7th attack on Israel would not have been possible without Iranian support. And this weekend's brazen assault on Israel demonstrates Iran's intentions have not wavered. They want to eradicate the state of Israel from the face of the earth. My bill targets independent Chinese oil refiners, so-called teapots, which have been driving China's purchases of Iranian crude. Unlike state-owned refiners that have retreated from the market, teapots are less exposed to blocking sanctions and deal in more limited quantities. However, teapots aren't completely beyond our reach. The United States also wields secondary sanctions that punish foreign financial institutions that work with Iran's banks in order to deal in Iranian crude. This is where the bill comes in. While these teapots may not have economic ties to the U.S. that would make
Leave it to
them
the
wary of
Republicans to come up
sanctions,
with a good new
Chinese and
racial
other
for
foreign
teapot.
financial institutions that work with teapots do
Hilarious.
deal with the U.S. financial system. Therefore, my bill expands the law's definition to ensure that any dealings they have with Iran-sanctioned financial institutions, including the Iranian Central Bank, will lead to the closure of their correspondent accounts in our country. These secondary sanctions complement the SHIP Act, a bill I sponsored that would impose sanctions on ports and refineries that take in petroleum from Iran. The House passed the SHIP Act in October and has been waiting for Senate Democrats to take up the bill ever since.
Come on,
It's
Senate
critical that the Senate
Democrats.
bring this bill and the SHIP Act up for votes. Enough is enough. We cannot let Iran continue in its efforts to destroy Israel, establish regional dominance, and destabilize the entire free world. And addressing their oil trade revenues is perhaps the best way to accomplish this. This common sense, bipartisan piece of legislation would do just that and would significantly reduce Iran's ability to project power in the region, fund terrorist groups, and attack our closest ally, Israel, both on its own or through its proxies. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of my bipartisan bill, the Iran-China Energy Sanctions Act, to hold two members of the acts of evil, some of our greatest, most dangerous adversaries, the governments of Iran and China, accountable for their nefarious activities. I'm very proud to lead this legislation with my fellow Problem Solvers Caucus member,
We've
the
been seeing
gentleman
some
from New York,
bipartisan
Mr.
bills
Lawler.
today. Nice.
China, and I want to thank the chairman as well, who always does a phenomenal job on the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. China is Iran's biggest customer of oil and a major supplier of Iran's missile and drone program. Despite strict U.S. sanctions designed to curb the Iranian regime's oil trade, China has tripled its imports of Iranian oil over the past 2 years. As we speak, Iran is using its oil trade with China to bring in a staggering $150 million per day in revenue. By importing millions of barrels of oil a day, China keeps the Iranian regime in business and provides crucial funds for Tehran's chaos agenda, including missile and nuclear weapons development. But China isn't just providing indirect funding. Reporting last year indicated that China is considering supplying Iran with ammonia, a key chemical compound used to propel ballistic missiles. Just 3 days after an unprecedented attack, when Iran launched more than 300 drones, ballistic and cruise missiles at our key democratic ally Israel, this partnership should sound major alarms. If all this wasn't concerning enough, China also disregards Iran's backing of terror groups and their proxies, including the Houthis, Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and of course, Hamas. Last month, Chinese diplomats met with Hamas after they brutally killed more than 1,200 innocent babies, children, men, women, and the elderly, including Americans, and said absolutely nothing about its barbaric attack on October 7th. Unlike China, we cannot and should not stand by in the face of terrorism. We must vehemently oppose terrorist sympathizers, sponsors, and supporters in all forms. That's why I'm also supporting H.R. 6408, which would amend the tax code to terminate the tax-exempt status of terror-supporting nations, including those who cheer on and provide material support on Iran and its proxies. And I want to thank my colleague, Mr. Schneider, for his phenomenal leadership, Mr. Kustoff. Hamas relies on support from the Iranian regime, the leading state sponsor of terror. As Iran deepens its ties to China, we are reminded that they cannot be trusted. Iran has directly or through their terrorist proxies killed hundreds of Americans and attacked our bases and our allies in the region. All of this is why we must pass the bipartisan Iran-China Energy Sanctions Act to cut off sources of funding to Iran. This bipartisan legislation, which unanimously passed the House Financial Services Committee, expands sanctions to cover Chinese financial institutions that purchase petroleum products from Iran. The bill also requires an annual determination as to whether Chinese financial institutions have engaged in sanctionable conduct. We must continue to support and we must continue to sanction those who are involved in the import of Iranian oil, including financial institutions. This bill will do just that. The Iran-China Energy Sanctions Act is urgently needed to cut off and deny resources to the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. China can no longer remain Iran's top customer. I'll continue to fight against Iran's growing influence and make sure we do everything in our power to protect the U.S. and its allies, including Israel, from Iran. I hope my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will join us to support this common sense, bipartisan legislation. I now yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Illinois, my friend and a great leader, Mr. Foster.
Nice. This might be a
Who's
workaround for
recognized?
those ghost ships that are transporting oil to China from Iran.
Representatives Lawler, and to my Republican Democratic colleagues who've made this bill come to the floor. I rise in support of H.R. 5923, the Iran-China Energy Sanctions Act. Thanks to Representative Lawler's bipartisan efforts, this legislation now includes an amendment that I proposed during the Financial Services Committee's consideration of this bill, which would empower the administration to go after Iran's production of unmanned aerial vehicles or drones that are now being used against our allies abroad. It is essential for us to work aggressively to cut off the flow of money that Iran, a known sponsor of terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, is using to fund violence and disrupt commerce around the world. Just last weekend, Iran sent more than 300 drones to attack Israel. According to the Atlantic Council, it is a steady supply of Iranian drones that allows Russia to continue its intensive bombing campaign against Ukraine. We also know that Iran is building drones and sharing its technology and expertise with its proxies in the Middle East. Drones and related technologies are changing the tactics used on the modern battlefield. They can be deployed in large numbers, as they were in Israel last weekend, in an attempt to overwhelm air defenses and strike critical infrastructure far from the front lines. Small and commercially available drones are also being used and converted to carry munitions capable of inflicting significant damage at relatively low cost. This legislation will crack down on the financing that makes Iran's support of our adversaries possible. Specifically, the language that I drafted will empower the Treasury to sanction any financial institution involved in the purchase of Iranian drones, parts, or related systems. We have seen the damage that drones are doing in Israel and Ukraine, and expanding this legislation to go after Iran's drone production is an important step to support our allies abroad. I support this legislation and encourage my colleagues to vote yes. Thank you, and yield back.
Yields. The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have no further speakers and prepare to close. The gentleman from North Carolina has no further speakers.
The gentleman reserves.
Reserve. I'm prepared to close.
Gentleman reserves. Recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself the balance of the time. I just want to close by saying that we must all continue to fight against Iran's growing influence and ensure we do everything in our power to protect the United States and its allies, including Israel, from Iran, especially after what we saw this weekend. It only reinforces what Iran is capable of, either directly or through its proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the Houthis. There are so many areas where Iran continues to not just attack our key allies, including Israel, but also the United States of America. I hope my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will join us to support this common sense bipartisan legislation. Again, I want to thank my colleague, Mr. Lawler, for his leadership and Chairman McHenry for his. And with that, I yield.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I think this is an important bill that is timely, quite timely. We reported this bill out in November when we could have had more restrictive action against the Iranian regime than is currently in place by this administration, a more aggressive stance against folks regimes that want to do harm globally. This is an important bill that is bipartisan out of the House Financial Services Committee. I want to commend Mr. Gottheimer and Mr. Lawler for their work here, as well as Mr. Foster's important addition to the bill. So it's a bipartisan product that is quite timely for us to put further restrictions on the Iranian regime. With that, I ask the support from my colleagues and ask for a yes vote and yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill, H.R. 5923, as amended? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. Purposes, the gentleman from North Carolina
Ask for
seek
the yeas and
recognition.
nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. All those in favor of taking this vote by the yeas and nays will rise and remain standing until counted. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed.
Okay, and another silence as we.
What purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 5921, the No U.S. Financing for Iran Act of 2023, as amended.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 271, H.R. 5921. A bill to prohibit the Secretary of the Treasury from authorizing certain transactions by a United States financial institution in connection with Iran to prevent the International Monetary Fund from providing financial assistance to Iran, to codify prohibitions on export-import bank financing for the government of Iran, and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. McHenry, and the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Cleaver, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days within which to revise and extend their remarks and exclude extraneous materials to this bill.
Action.
I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this bill, the No U.S. Financing for Iran Act, sponsored by the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Huizinga. Mr. Huizinga is the subcommittee chair on the Oversight Subcommittee of the House Financial Services Committee, an important leader on the committee and an important voice in this Congress. And I'll yield him such time as he may consume to explain the bill.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, our friend and ally was just attacked by Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terror. When the Committee on Financial Services held a hearing on my bill last November following the atrocities of October 7th, I remarked at that time that it was timely. Well, today is timely as well. We're at yet another inflection point. Iran's direct attack on Israel this weekend demonstrates that the U.S. must hold Iran accountable. One significant way to do this is by cutting off Iran's access to the funding it uses to finance terrorism. H.R. 5921 does exactly what it says. It stops Iran from being able to use the U.S. financial system while ensuring that institutions under our committee's jurisdiction keep their distance from the government in Tehran. As we all know, Iran remains one of the most heavily sanctioned countries in the world. However, many of those sanctions that are put in place are used or are imposed through executive orders. It is time that we codify them in law. 5921 does 3 main things. First, it prohibits Treasury from issuing licenses that allow U.S. financial institutions to enable trade with Iran. That is what's happening right now, Mr. Speaker. Treasury is issuing licenses for that business activity. It's clear that we must take all necessary steps to protect the integrity of the U.S. financial institutions by prohibiting these licenses that allow Tehran to trade oil and gas and other goods and facilitate, therefore, its support of terrorism. Second, this bill further cuts off financing for Iran from the world's lender of last resort, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. While Iran is not currently seeking assistance from the fund, it certainly could as an IMF member country. My bill makes clear that the United States, as the IMF's largest shareholder, would oppose any such request. This prohibition would actually further extend to the IMF Special Drawing Rights Program, which, get this, Mr. Speaker, which in 2021, Iran utilized just 3 years ago to access approximately $5 billion. So we have seen the IMF already be used by the Ayatollahs in Iran to finance terrorism. And lastly, my bill extends to existing prohibition against the Export-Import Bank financing projects in Iran and that benefit Iran's leaders. Mr. Speaker, I want to note one exception that we have included in this bill before us today, and it's a very important one, and I know it's an important one to some of my colleagues, and I think my friend from Missouri is one of those folks. U.S. law has long exempted humanitarian assistance from sanctions so as to not punish innocent civilians, but to go after the leaders of the country. Well, my bill is targeted. It tightens our grip on the Ayatollahs and the Iranian leaders while permitting licenses to allow for humanitarian aid to continue to flow to the Iranian people. This is as clear as day in the text of the bill. And Mr. Speaker, let's not forget that in January, an Iranian-backed proxy militia group conducted a lethal drone attack on a U.S. base in Jordan. The attack resulted in the deaths of 3 American service members and injured over 40 others. This was a direct attack on our troops. This occurred as the administration continues to ignore calls from our committee to provide transparency surrounding the most recent sanction waivers granted over the last year. By allowing sanction waivers to continue, the administration is maintaining a financial lifeline to the Iranian regime, even as it continues to support terrorism organizations around the world. And now Iran directly attacked our ally Israel.
Exactly. We had over
So, Mr. Speaker, when our fellow
attacks
Americans deposit their earnings in a U.S. bank or entrust the government
bases
with their
and
tax
assets in
dollars,
the Middle
they
East
do so assuming
from
that the money
Iran.
will not be used
What
in
did Biden
ways that
do?
undermine the security of our nation. We
He goes
cannot say
after
that
Iran's
today.
proxy,
That is, in
Yemen,
fact, the case.
instead of just
These are
bombing the shit
common
out of
sense but
Iran.
long overdue
That's what I would've
prohibitions
done,
in my bill here
I'm
today.
not in charge.
And let's hold the
Sadly.
Iranian regime accountable with this bipartisan bill.
I'd really
It will
bomb
make
the
sure that
country.
our U.S. financial
That'd be
system
my
is
solution.
safe.
Probably
It
not great.
will prohibit the World Bank and the IMF from being able to finance anything dealing with Iran. And I urge swift passage of the No U.S. Financing for Iran Act and yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman from North Carolina is
Reserve.
the gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman's recognized.
Hey, isn't that the guy that was just in the
Let me
hearing
preface
we
my
were
comments
watching?
by saying, in harmony with Mr. Huizinga, that I too find what happened over the weekend with Iran sending over 300 missiles into Israel is obscene, just as what Hamas did on October 7th in Israel, which was brutal and inhumane. I do rise now in opposition to H.R. 5921, sponsored by Congressman Huizinga. This bill would cause, I believe, significant harm to our national security and harm America's small businesses trying to sell their products overseas. And what is clearly a very rushed attempt to give the impression that House Republicans know how to govern, they have brought this bill to the floor.
Oh, right. We should
5 months
listen
after
to the
Democrats
'cause you
overwhelmingly
guys have done
rejected
such a
it,
stellar job.
rather than actually taking action to respond to Iran's attack on Israel. Instead, House Republicans would rather deny assistance to every developing country in the world and halt financing for small businesses at the Export-Import Bank. First, this bill would prevent the Treasury Secretary from agreeing to an increase in the International Monetary Fund's special drawing rights, which are essentially the currency of the IMF. The last increase, approved by Secretary Yellen in 2021, successfully was used by countries around the world to respond to the pandemic and bolstering their balance sheets. Sub-Saharan African countries were able to exchange their SDRs for US dollars at no cost to US taxpayers. Republican claims that Iran would be able to use its allocation of SDRs for terrorist financing, but the US has effectively blocked Iran from doing that. Iran cannot convert SDRs to dollars because no country would want to be sanctioned for doing so. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. Iran's SDRs remain untouched decades after first receiving them. It has used not one single dollar in this century. Rather than offer legislation like Ranking Member Waters' bill that would target the ghost fleet that Iran uses to evade U.S. oil sanctions, and which passed the committee by a wide bipartisan vote, House Republicans are using Iran's attack to target a source of funding for developing countries that they have long loathed. What's more, by undermining the ability of the IMF to increase its SDRs, we're only handing a victory to China, which longs to see IMF, the World Bank, and the other US-led international institutions fail. The second significant concern is that HR 5921 would halt all XM financing, including for small businesses in the US, because it would require XM to go back and reevaluate every single transaction to look for terrorist financing. XM already has done this, but the Republicans want to make it look as if they are doing something by making XM do it again. But at great cost to our economy, and I don't need to remind this House that the last time Republicans were in charge, they shuttered the XM Bank for 5 months. And it was only after.
Okay. I can't listen to my dude anymore. Hold on a second. I'm going to stop that. Boop. There we go. Okay. We got a couple other things to get to. He's just I can't do it. Sorry. But I'm sure they will vote. They probably have quite a few more things they're doing. I think they're doing something, I think, at like 8 tonight too. So they're going to be going for a while. So if you guys want to watch that, you can always go to the House of Representatives. Just look up the live floor proceedings. You can watch it if you really want to break out the popcorn tonight. Otherwise, you can just look at the news and see what they end up voting on. Or I'll tell you tomorrow. That as well. So, okay, yeah, you feeling it too? We're good. We heard enough from him. Him and his little cranky pants. So today, crazy. Have you been watching the news? Have you seen all of the pro-Palestinian protests that have been going on today, just mucking up the blue cities around our country? Crazy. All right. They were on the Bay Bridge. Oh, yes. I had some for breakfast. Thank you. And I will have more later. That's never a problem with me. I love cake. I could live off of cake. Anyway, they were on the San Francisco Bay Bridge. They were blocking something, the way to get into Chicago O'Hare Airport. They were in San Antonio. They're probably still in New York City. They were just going onto one of the bridges in New York when we started the program. They were in Miami. They were in, did I say San Antonio already? They've been all over today. Crazy fuckers protesting. Let's take a look at some of these things. I got some things keyed up for you to show you in case you haven't seen it. Because it's insane. It is absolutely insane. Let's see. Hold on just a second. Where do I start? I had it. Okay. Yeah, we'll start with that one. Alrighty. Let me pull it up. Nope, that's not the one. Why does it come up in a different order? Over here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is San Francisco. You can see we've got our protesters right here. We'll play it. I don't know if it has any sound or not. They were on the bridge for like 4 hours because these people right here, you can kind of see this is like a, what do you call those tubes? The plastic ones that they use for plumbing. Can't remember the name of it now. I don't know if they had it like chained to the car or glued to the car. They did something weird and it took them literally 4 hours or so. I think they finally were just getting it going when we started up and it was going on PVC. Thank you, Snoop. Going on about 4 hours when we started the show and they were finally getting these people off of these cars. So the people on the bridge like in their cars, were stuck there the entire time. It's a big bridge. Can you imagine these guys, these in the back? You can't see what I'm doing. Well, these are still some of the protesters here, but I don't know. It was backed up, just backed up forever. And these poor people, they can't turn around. They're on the bridge. So they're stuck there. They were stuck there the entire time. Would you not want to strangle these protesters? This, by the way, is illegal. And they did arrest all of them. I hope they prosecute them fully because they did the same thing about 6 months ago. And what happened, you ask? What did they do? What happened to these people? It must have been something terrible, right? They must have handled it in a way that really, really sent the message home. It did not. It did not. This is what happened. So let's see. Do you think it'll be any different? Any different this time? Probably not, because they're Democrats. So this was in March of this year. Protesters who blocked Bay Bridge announced agreement with court. They avoid jail time. So they did this before. Dozens of protesters who blocked the Bay Bridge last year. I want to say it was after the October 7th, which is like, it makes no sense, right? Like, Palestine just bombs the shit out of Israel, and then we get pro-Palestinian like protests. Like, it's okay for Palestine to do it. It should be completely horrible. But God forbid Israel retaliate, which, by the way, they should. Just bomb the fuckers. So anyways, yeah. So it was known as the Bay Bridge 78. They walked out of a courtroom Thursday. Again, this was back in March of this year, March 14th, yeah. To a cheering crowd. Yeah, you idiots. That packed the hallway to support them. In the words of organizers, the outcome was a complete victory. Essentially, the judge dismissed our case as of May 15th. So they got a diversion deal, which means they 5 hours community service. So diversion deal means they enter in a guilty plea, which is not the same as pleading guilty. They enter into a guilty plea. They do whatever the judge says, whether it's probation, community service. Looks like this is five whole hours of community service, and a fine of $4,500 in restitution. And once they do that, the charges are dismissed. So they have no charges on the record. Yeah. So this is what happened to November 16th. They blocked it, calling for a ceasefire. Yeah. So it happened last November. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. That's why they did it again. Even though it's illegal. It is illegal for them to be protesting there. Yes, you have a right to peacefully protest, but not there. Not there. Yeah. Those folks on the Golden Gate Bridge had barrels with cement this past time, today, or the ones in November? Yeah, I don't know. They did they were doing crazy things. It took them forever to get them off. So I feel so bad for the people that were sitting in their cars. Can you imagine sitting in your car for 4 hours on the bridge? First of all, that would be a nightmare for me. I hate driving over bridges. I don't like deep water. I don't like it. I don't like just going over the bridge, but being stuck on the bridge for 4 hours would be a nightmare. I mean, the scenery is lovely, but those are shark-infested waters, people. What happens? My fear was like, oh my God, what if those people has a bomb in their car and then the whole bridge goes down and everybody that's on it? That's where my head goes. I'm paranoid about that stuff. But yeah, I mean, stuck in hours for traffic is like just the start, right? It could have been very, very bad. And thankfully it wasn't. It wasn't where my brain took it. So that's good. That's good. But these people. I can't with these people. Okay, now let's see. What else do we have? Where are some of the other ones? Hold on a second. Where did they go? Okay, so then we also had, like I said, in New York. So this is a guy who is in New York. Now he came in as someone who he kind of came in to counter them. He had an American flag. And he talks about kind of what happened while he was there. So let's take a listen. Let's see. Can I make this bigger? Okay.
Okay. Do you come to a lot of these?
I come sometimes.
Okay.
I feel it's important most of the time.
And I saw you I didn't see you chanting anything. I saw you waving an American flag.
Yeah. You're committing genocide! Look, these guys are just supporting everything that goes against the American values. They're anti-liberal, they're anti-democracy, they're anti-progressive.
Is he saying
right? They're
bring up Iraq?
anti-people rights. So I'm just
Or
trying to
something
remind
about
people
Iraq?
that we're in America. Like, this is what we support. You know, we support liberalism, we support democracy, we support freedom, right? So
I was standing next to you when they were hauling away a pro-Palestinian protester, and he kicked you.
yeah, he kicked me in the stomach. All I was holding was an American flag. That shows you what they think about the American flag.
All right, and you want to give a statement, right, to police?
I gave a statement to police.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah. So he was standing there, and a pro-Palestinian protester was being taken away, thankfully, and the guy kicked him in the stomach. Kicked him in the stomach. He's like, all I was doing is I had an American flag, and that's why he kicked him. These people are so stupid. They are so incredibly stupid. Not the guy with the flag, the pro-Palestinian protesters. And, you know, I said this on X because I don't care. I don't care if any of these people see that. I get in arguments all the time with people on X, let me tell you. But I don't care because here's the thing they don't understand. I lived in the Middle East. Those people, Hamas, that you're protesting for, they hate you. Regardless of whether or not you're protesting, you're American. They hate you. You're the enemy. They don't care. They don't care that you're protesting for them. One, they will see it as stupid. And two, you know what that means to them? They can use you, you're a pawn, and you're expendable. So they'll use you in whatever way that suits their purpose best. But trust me, all of these college-age suburban women who are over there, you know, eating granola and protesting for, you know, the Palestinians, if you got dropped off, trust me, you'd be raped and beheaded. That's what would happen to you. Sorry if you don't want to hear it. They don't care. They don't care that you're on their side. They don't care. You're American. They hate you. I don't know how to be more like blunt about it. So stop being an idiot. Stop being an idiot. And I would also like to scoop all of these pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, and somebody had a Hezbollah flag as well. Scoop them all up, put them on a plane, dump them in the Middle East, and say, here you go. Go help your buddies out. And then let them see firsthand what these terrorist groups are like. I guarantee you they would be begging to come back to the United States. Begging. Because these people are brutal. Brutal. They don't care. They don't care about your protests. Oh yeah, they're all Democrats. Snoop sounds like a Democrat that would do that, kicking people. Oh, yeah, all of these pro-Palestinian like protesters are Democrats, which is interesting, right? Because now we're seeing this kind of this implosion within the Democratic Party, which, by the way, is beautiful. That's a wonderful thing. But these pro-Palestinian protesters, I don't get it. I don't get it. Sure, none of us wants to see a humanitarian crisis for innocent civilians that are caught up in a war. But you don't think that's happening on the Israeli side as well? It is. It is. So why are you so brainwashed that you think Hamas, I mean, they're Americans chanting death to America. If somebody else said it, I don't know if it was XJ or Christopher or whoever it was, but if you don't like it here, leave. Leave. I will pay for your plane ticket to go to the Middle East, dump you off in the middle of the desert with your buddies. Totally fine doing that. I don't understand why they think these terrorist groups are worth fighting for. Why? Why? How can you be so stupid? It makes no sense. No sense to me whatsoever. All right, hold on. I got some more to show you because that's not the end of it. These people are crazy. Yeah. No, that's not the one I want. Where is it? Okay, hold on. Let me just double check again. Yeah, this was the one for Chicago O'Hare. They were blocking. Man, I feel so bad for these people. Ugh. So these people were just trying to get to the airport, and these stupid protesters are blocking the way. So people were literally having to get out of the cars that brought them there and like go on foot with their luggage in order to try to make their flights. Unbelievable. Just absolutely crazy. Crazy. Blah. Sorry, I don't know. Hold on. Something started playing, but it's dumbassery. That's right. It's dumbassery. Yeah. It's I mean, like, what do they really think they're gonna make a difference? Do they honestly think they're gonna make a difference? Now look, I am all for peaceful protest, but don't fuck up other people's lives in the process. Like, these people are just trying to catch a flight. Like, nobody likes going to the airport as it is. Now you gotta make it even more miserable for them. And by the way, also illegal, but the police were just standing there. Why? Why weren't the police, because it's Chicago, that's why. Why weren't the police moving them out of the way? Because again, people were being held up for hours because these fuckers decided that it's a great idea to block the way to the Chicago O'Hare Airport and protest for Palestine. Yes, Hamas will really appreciate that. Yes. We're making a difference here today, girls. We are. So good. So good. You know, sometimes I really hate some of the people in my own gender. Why are women so stupid sometimes? Why? Why are there so many stupid women? Like, it's stop thinking so much with your fucking hearts and use your brains a little bit more, ladies. Now, there are plenty of you who are brilliant, and I have so much respect for. But it's the dumbass progressive liberals that they are like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. These people are dying. It's just a humanitarian crisis. But they don't look at the big picture. They get so laser focused and hyper focused and brainwashed. They allow themselves to believe the hype, and they don't think about the bigger picture. They get stuck in this like microscopic view of the world and don't sit back and be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't like protest for these terrorists. Maybe not a great idea. They're not always great. They're raping women, killing children. It's shit stickery. Exactly. Yeah. There's no other way to put it. Yes. Yeah. In Chicago, they're big on take away your guns and shit like that going on. That's what our government thinks of us. Oh, for real. For real. Chicago, who has one of the highest crime rates in the country and some of the strictest gun laws. What a weird coincidence, right, guys? So it's really weird. Like, how could that possibly be related? It's not, right? And now they have immigrants and the mayor of Chicago. I mean, the people there are getting pissed. The residents of Chicago getting pissed about all the immigrants. And he's like, they still got more room. Send them over. We can take even more. It's great. It's wonderful. Immigrants are great for our economy. And by immigrants, he means illegal immigrants. Why are people so stupid? Why are they so stupid? Don't you ever just sit back and be like, I wish I could just rule the country, rule the world, because people clearly don't know what's good for them. Some of them are just so stupid. Some are so stupid. And then the one guy, what's his name? The one that I couldn't listen to anymore at the house, where he was just like, oh, the Republicans don't know how to rule. And I'm like, are you for real, sir? Are you looking around the country and the world right now at what's happening because we have Democratic administration and Democratic DAs and AGs and all these soft on crime liberals who are running these cities into the ground? Are you looking at any of that? Like, do you ever feel like sometimes you just live in a different world? Like, how are these people looking at these things? Looking at the state of the world, I mean, we're on the verge of World War III. We're on the verge of a civil war in this country. And they're going, yeah, I think it's great. It's wonderful. If only these damn Republicans wouldn't stop trying to fuck everything up, because what we're doing here is a wonderful thing. Are we looking at the same country? Are we looking at the same world? Really don't think we are. Really don't. Yeah, let's vote for more of that. Yeah. You think it every day and just like, yeah, exactly. Me too. I'm just kind of like, well, what is happening? Like, how could people look at these things and say, oh, yeah, this is working. This is beautiful. We need more of this. You know what we need? We need 4 more years of this. Perfect. And anything bad? Trump. His fault. The man's not in office. You got him tied up in court cases, but everything bad is his fault still. He has more power not in office than Joe Biden does in office. Right? Because everything bad is Trump's fault. So apparently he's still controlling things. And anything that could be good, like, oh, I don't know, securing the border, making sure we don't have millions of illegals crossing the border and terrorists flooding through and sex traffickers and rapists and murderers and guns and drugs and all of this craziness. Close the border. But no, Joe can't do that. No, he needs Congress to act. Huh, funny, because Trump did it without Congress. Trump did it with lawsuits coming at him. Yet he still managed to do it. Those things still at your disposal, Joe. You could do it. But no, Joe doesn't have the authority to do it. So isn't that amazing how Donald Trump is still has so much control over things when he's not even in power? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Hey, Don, how are you? So nice to see you. We're just talking about the craziness in the world right now. So, and then Mike Johnson. What is going on with Mike Johnson? You know, Mike, I was rooting for you. I really was. I really was. And I'm still hoping that maybe, but there's something going on with Mike Johnson. He's turning. Now, he said, and we're just talking about FISA specifically here, he was against it. He was for the warrants, he was for everything, but then he got the classified briefing and he realized just how important FISA was and that warrants would be would just take too much time and get in the way, and we can't have that. We can't have that. It would take too long. Okay, first of all, Mike, you're a lawyer. You know that if the FBI really wanted to get a warrant, they could get one pretty darn quick. Like, they really could. It's not going to take that much time. But no, they don't want that. They don't want that. So what happened? The amendment to add on the warrant got voted down. Now, Mike Johnson is saying he wants to get aid to Israel. And he has this conundrum that he's dealing with. That, he wants to, Mike is for these clean bills, right? That was the big thing that the Republicans have been talking about in Congress this session, is they don't want these big omnibus bills that have a million different amendments, that are a million different things. They're 1,000-page long. They don't really know what's in them. They can't take the time to read them. They can't have amendments on them. So it's just, a smorgasbord of things that get passed. And they're like, no, why don't we just have clean bills? Make each bill its own thing. That would be much too easy and much too transparent. But that's what they want. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? To know, oh, this bill is for this one particular issue, and this is what we're going to do with it. That's it. That's it. But no, they're not going to do that. They don't want to do it. But anyways, so Mike Johnson. Now he did put forward a bill, remember, about a month or so ago for aid to Israel. It was just that, just aid to Israel. There was nothing in it about Ukraine. There was nothing in it about the border. It was just aid to Israel. Republicans voted for it. Democrats shot it down. No. Why? Because there wasn't aid for Ukraine in there. And nothing to do with the border. I mean, our own border. God forbid we actually focus on our own border. But because there wasn't aid for Ukraine, they shot it down. And even Biden said, even if you pass that bill, I won't sign it. Big F you, wasn't it? Thank you so much, John. Thanks. It's crazy. So now, Mike Johnson, we have this issue that's been happening over the weekend, right? Iran launched all these missiles and drones at Israel. 99% of them between us and Israel and Saudi Arabia, and I think, was it the UK also, were able to block them and get rid of them and intercept them. There was only one little girl, a 7-year-old girl, who got hit by shrapnel, and she is in critical condition in Israel, but she's the only one that got hurt, which is amazing when you consider it was like 300 drones and missiles that got launched over to Israel. So, all in all, that's an amazing defense. And I don't know if you guys heard Biden's ominous warning to Iran before this last week, because remember, they were all saying something's imminent. And Joe Biden was giving a press conference, and one of the reporters at the end said, President Biden, we've heard about all of this. What is your message for Iran? We hear an attack is imminent, and he did his famous don't. And that was it. Don't. Which, I mean, we've heard the Secretary of Defense say the same thing. Don't. Lloyd Austin say the same thing. Don't. Anyway, our Secretary of State and Lloyd Austin? I can't remember. It was Lloyd Austin and one other guy. Don't. Like, this was their big move. Don't. Oh, problem solved. Don't. Hey, guys, call up Iran. He said, don't. Don't. Well, they did. And now Biden is telling Netanyahu, who said, yeah, we are going to respond. We are going to respond in kind, which, yeah, they absolutely should. Bomb the fucking shit out of them. Because Iran is a threat to everybody right now, except for Russia and China. Bomb the shit out of them. Go for it. If you're going to play with the big boys, it's going to happen. It's what you get. But Biden's like, we will not support you in any type of retaliatory strike. What? But our support for Israel is ironclad. No, it's really not then. It's really not. And they're saying, oh, well, look at what we did this weekend, how we helped to defend them. Super. You should. But if they retaliate, then, ooh, no. Why is that? Why is it? Because it's all these fuckers that are protesting around the country, pro-Palestinian fuckwads that are protesting, and Biden doesn't have the balls to say, we do not support terrorists. Period. If you don't like it, you're free to leave the country. Leave it at that. What are they going to do? Protest more? Okay, lock them up, put them in jail. Unless they're peacefully protesting, then by all means, protest away, suburban moms and college age students. Protest your heart out, but get off the roads. Quit fucking up everybody's days. They tried to overwhelm the Iron Dome, which often shoots itself, right? Well, the Iron Dome is actually the lowest in Israel's defense. The Iron Dome is actually the low, kind of the lowest level. It sounds like it should be the highest, but it's actually the lowest. But yeah, between the Iron Dome and the Patriots and like interceptors, and they were like, I think there's like 6 different layers of defense that they had. Yeah, it was amazing. And we had fighter jets in the air. I mean, spectacular defense, right? But you're sitting there saying to Israel, and President Biden goes, you should consider this a win. A win? I consider it wonderful that you intercepted 99%. But the fact that they had the balls to do this? Oh, no, sir. That's not a win. They need to be bombed into oblivion. Teach them not to do it. It's the only way they're going to understand. These people only understand violence. So, treat violence with violence, right? What are they going to do? Give them a swift talking to? That wasn't very good. Now, Iran, we don't appreciate what you did. And we expect that it won't be done again. Because don't. Ooh. Put that on a shirt. Quit fucking up people's day. I will. I like it. Chris, remember that for me. Oh, thank you so much, John. That is so sweet. Thank you. Oh, and guess what? John now becomes the sponsor. Yes, so I have a new thing for those that don't know. Whoever is whatever the highest hold on a second, whatever the highest super sticker or super chat or what have you becomes the sponsor of the show. And that is so amazing. Thank you so much, John. Though, you know what I'm going to do, because you guys are pretty much, I mean, it's like a penny difference. You know what? No, we're going to give it to you. We're going to give it to you. Chris, you know I love you. She's wonderful. But technically, 10 is more than $9.99, I suppose, right? So we'll share it. Come on. Boop. Come on. Why is this not gonna? Hold on. Come on, StreamYard. Boo. Why is it being a pain in the patootie? Hold on. Let me see. Maybe I'm just gonna add one more. Okay, there we go. Whatever. That worked. There we go. Yay! Thanks. Thank you so much, John. That's so nice. John can win. It's a win. It's a win for all of us. Thank you. Thank you so much. That is absolutely wonderful. Oh, no. I'm so happy that you're here, and thank you. It's absolutely wonderful and such a lovely birthday present just to have you guys here. Hey, Intergalactic Angler, how are you? Chris held the banner all day. That's true. She had the beginning. She was holding us up from like 4 something on. That's right. Now John is like carrying the mantle. Yes. Put that on a shirt, not a shirt, put that on a shirt, not a shirt. I said shirt, right? Are you thinking I said shit? Did I say shit? Maybe it's possible. Quit fucking up people's day. Yeah. Okay, Chris, you got to remind me of that, so I don't forget, because that is a good one. And we can have Ozzy on her Uzi, and on the back it'll say "Quit fucking up people's day." Oh my god, it's just crazy out there. Are you guys getting like me and Dave? And I know I'm gonna speak for Dave because I know that because we talk about this, where we're just like, we need to fortify. The world is getting crazy. Crazy. I mean, we want like, I told him, I was like, I want like matching bedside like ARs on either side of us. I'm good with that. I think that's beautiful. We need that. We were at the gun range most of the weekend. It was awesome. trying out different pistols to get one. So we'll see. For me, Dave has his already, but I want to get one that I can carry around. Thankfully, we have constitutional carry here in Ohio. Totally get you. Yeah, you too, right? Like, fortify the house. Crazy. Chicanery out there and not the good type. Yes, chicanery. Yes. We're well armed. Well, we are. That's true. But you can never have too many, right? You can never have too many. And a new one is fun. So, yep, about to get more well armed. I know. I'm very excited. We're gonna go tomorrow. There's this new gun range. Well, I think it's like about a year old in the area, and it's so cool. I love it. And I think it was created by two. Oh gosh, we talked to one of the girls that worked there last year, where like when they first opened. They're are they ex-Marines, Dave? Do you remember two military guys, two ex-military guys, or two? I don't know if they were special forces or they were Marines or whatever. Two ex-military guys who started this. Oh God, what is the name of it? Do you remember, Dave? Is it Midwest something or other? Anyway, very cool. Yeah, two ex-military. I don't remember what they are. But they they started. It's really cool. So I'd be interested to talk to them. Maybe we can get them to come on the show and talk. That would be so much fun. But yeah, Midwest Range, is it? Midwest Range? Midwest something. Yeah, they have a couple in Ohio. I don't know if they're out of Ohio yet. But I know you can have your own because there's a sign in there if you want your own franchise. Yeah, I will. Dave, can you go look on, can you find out the name and let me know and we'll put it in the chat? Yeah, because I know there's a couple of them. Or you know what? Hold on. Let me just Google it. I'm sure it's in here. Midwest Range. Yeah, it is. Midwest. Yeah, Midwest Range in Beaver Creek. Let's see where their locations are. Midwest Shooting Center. Yeah, that's what it's called. Midwest Shooting Center. Here. They even have like an event space. So much fun. We became members. We'll give them a little shout out. They do parties. They have training, membership, classes. See, does it say premier membership, semi-private training, modern range, private events? Do they have locations? Because I know not all of you live in the Dayton area. Oh, wow, they do have more. Okay, look at that, Ohio. Is it Lima or Lima? All of my longtime Ohio people, I never know. Toledo, Dayton, North Cincinnati, Cleveland, coming soon, Cleveland area. Indiana, Fort Wayne, South Indianapolis, coming soon. North Pittsburgh has one. Detroit has one. So there you go. XJ, Detroit has one. Not sure if you're near Detroit, but yeah, it's really cool. A really, really cool place. Well, thank you so much. Yes, definitely. Go check it out if they have one near you. It's awesome. We had a lot of fun. So yeah, I want to try and get in touch with the guys who started it and see if we can have them on and chat with them. Chat guns. And that's something Dave and I were talking about doing some shows about guns. So, because it's something that we like talking about and we love. Yeah, Dayton's not too far. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great time. And guns are really cool, man. I grew up around them, obviously, on military bases, and my dad collected them. So yeah, just I'm used to being around them. Don't bother me. That's why my kids are just like, oh, we don't want guns at the school. Because, they grew up in Massachusetts, so it's like liberal haven. And I'm like, yeah, you absolutely do want armed guards at your school. I was like, they're like, no, it'll be scary. I'm like, settle down. Just settle down and toughen up. In my school, they had M16s walking around. You're fine. You're fine. Like in Saudi Arabia, yeah, we had well-armed guards. like settle down. Kids these days are too soft. Yeah. Detroit has an outdoor range 24/7. Ooh, that's cool. So you can go at night and practice. That sounds like, what if someone's not that great at night? Because, some people are new. Like, that doesn't sound very safe. It's the mom and me coming out like, oh, hopefully they have precautions. I'm sure they do. Otherwise, their insurance would be very, very high. Very high. Gatling guns are legal to have. Yeah, I saw a girl on YouTube. I can't remember her name. Where she had like a Gatling gun and she was shooting it. It was actually really cool. My dad had a World War II Nazi gun. I can't remember which one it was. But I just remember, I just remember sitting there. I used to love watching him like clean his guns. It's very relaxing. They probably, I would imagine they must have like YouTube channels where people clean guns, right? Like if that's a very ASMR kind of situation. But very relaxing and interesting. And I love the history of them. Like the history of guns is fascinating to me. But yeah, my dad had I can't remember. I don't know, Dave, if you remember what it was. It's very, I don't know. I can't remember. I'll look it up if anybody's interested. But I was like, I remember thinking, like, oh my God, that's so crazy. Like this was a gun that the Nazis used. And even though the Nazis were horrific, I mean, okay, let's be honest. The people in the army were the citizens of Germany, right? Like they didn't really have much of a choice. So someone shooting it, like I'm never gonna, say they're a horrible human being unless they were maybe in the SS. We can condemn a lot of them, though. I think Werner von Braun, wasn't he part of the SS? I might be wrong about that, but people are complicated. We'll just say that. But anyways, I remember thinking like this gun was used by a Nazi soldier in World War II. Like the history in that is crazy. That's it, it's really it's fascinating. It's fascinating to me. Do I mean Hitler's buzzsaw? I don't know what that is. What is that? But yeah, I don't remember what type of gun it was exactly. But anyway, it was really interesting. It's just a lot of history. And then he had a dagger that was from I think the Revolutionary War that he found when he was growing up because my dad grew up in Pennsylvania. And I think he was a kid. He was playing in like a creek and it was in the water. He found it. It's really cool, like cool old dagger. So I remember like liking that too as a kid. I was a weird kid. I was a weird girl. I know, like I liked these things. I had pet snakes, um, turtles. I was a weird kid, weird girl, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's why I don't understand these people that are like, I'm just gonna say it, like bleeding heart liberals. It's just not my thing. Now, I'm friends with some, but you know, I don't get it. But it's short bullets at a higher rate than anti-aircraft guns. Oh, it's shot bullets at a higher rate than anti-aircraft gun. Oh, it's pretty crazy. M31A4. Let's look that up. Is that a Nazi gun? 31A4. Or are we talking about an A4? Like an A4, like the gun A4? That's like a. Why is nothing coming up? Did I do it wrong? Hold on, let me go back. M3A1. Oh, okay, A1. That's why. This wasn't an A4 precursor to an AR-15. Oh, wow. So that's like a tank that shoots missiles? Heavy rocket launchers to Ukraine. Oh, that's crazy. Dang. That's crazy. It's a tank that launches missiles? Wow. Does everybody know this? Range USA, sorry. Oh, okay. crazy. So, yes, I'm very excited. We're going to the range again tomorrow. So we might need to do an earlier show. I gotta talk with Dave and figure out what time we're going because we'll probably go when he's done with work. So I might do an earlier show tomorrow, just FYI. But I'm so glad to be back. And I missed you guys. I missed you last week. So sorry that I had to miss 3 days. It was a bummer. I'm a ding dong. Like I have a million and one things going on. And I have back and neck issues and I've been seeing a doctor and he's been dealing with like the nerves in my neck. And I thought I was just gonna go get some like I've been getting these like they had to do these trials, but they were just like nerve blockers. And I thought that's what I was going back for. It was not. That was not where we were at in the treatment. So yeah, so I got what's called a nerve ablation. I don't know if you guys care about this, but we'll just talk because we're friends, right? It's all in the family here. So basically, they burn the nerves. It's not like the process itself isn't difficult, but dang, I was not prepared for the fallout. Fuck, man, felt like I got shot in the neck. It was terrible, but you know what? It's much better now. And hey, if it numbs the nerves for like he said, like 8 to 10 months, that's awesome. That's awesome. Uh, getting us all worked up over range talk. I know, right? So fun, so fun. Oh my gosh. Once Dave and I were like talking, he was like, "Oh, I wish like we had a channel where we could just like shoot guns and talk guns." And I was like, "Dude, we do have a channel where we can do that." He's like, "Oh yeah, I guess we could do that, couldn't we?" Yes. Yes. So we are going to be doing that. We're going to have some episodes where we're shooting. We're going to have some episodes maybe just talking about guns. Between us and our friends, there's a whole arsenal we have access to. Plus, I want to see, do you guys remember the episode that I did with my friend Paul? He's the detective. Well, he's the sergeant. Is he a sergeant now? But he's in charge of the whole investigative unit. And so I'm gonna talk with him, and I know Paul, I know he'll be game to do this. I really want to talk about have him on as a detective and ask him questions about gun laws in Ohio, because obviously we're in Ohio, so he knows those. And and find out like it's a constitutional carry, but there are still laws, right? There are still things, and as gun owners, super important to know all of the laws. So, and even like if you're traveling, like I was saying to Dave yesterday, I was like, okay, so what if you go from one constitutional carry state to another constitutional carry state? As a non resident of that state, are you still entitled to carry? I'm not sure. So, I want to have an episode where we sit down with Paul, Detective Paul, and ask questions. I think that would be so much fun. So, yeah, I'm gonna talk with him. I think we're gonna see him this weekend, and yeah, I'm gonna talk to him. I'm sure he'll be game to do it. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. Uh, thank you, Chris. Thank you. I mean, like Chris's rockets and her little guns. Pew, pew. They look like little Nerf guns. At least that's what they're showing up here. Let me look on because I know on. Oh, they look interesting on YouTube. It's so funny how they show up differently on YouTube versus StreamYard. Like you guys can see in the chat what they look like. This is what I get to see on StreamYard. It's kind of funny. Not every state does that constitution. No, not every state is constitutional carry. There are 39 states, I believe, that are constitutional carry now in the US. But what we want to know is if you're a non-resident of the state, are you still entitled to carry? See, they have weird little things like that. You might not be. Take the camera to the range. Yeah, I gotta talk with the guys, the owners, and make sure it's okay, everything before I film there. But yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Definitely. But yeah, I'm gonna finagle and talk to the owners and see what we can do. Because hey, it's good advertising for them too, right? Yes, definitely. Y'all need to learn your state laws and adjoining state laws, all different. Absolutely, right? And little things. little things like, um, we were just talking this weekend again about the castle doctrine, right? In Ohio, where someone comes into your house, you can shoot them. But it's not that simple. It's not that simple. So that's why I want to get Detective Paul on. His official name, Detective Paul. I want to have Paul come on and talk with him about the different laws so we can all be educated. And then like we'll see if we can find, I don't know if it would be helpful for you guys that are in different states, like where you can go to find out all of the state laws. There's got to be some resource that has like per state you can look up your laws. Um, some states require residency when it's constituted, right? But which ones? Which ones don't? Right? What if you have, I mean, certain licenses you can get that allow you to carry in multiple states, but it's only some and not all. There's different types of licenses that you can get. There are states that aren't like, um, there isn't reciprocity, meaning you can have, so say I have an Ohio CCW, but then I go to Massachusetts, there's no reciprocity there. But there is another type of license, and I can't remember the name of it, where you can carry in states that don't have reciprocity. And there's obviously more training and more stuff going on and all, but yeah, this will make a super good show. I think so too, right? Right? Yes. And then, yeah, maybe if we get in good with the guys at the range, they'll let us try out the new guns as they come in. It would be fun. It'd be a lot of fun. You want to try to avoid being the aggressor in the eyes of a state prosecutor. Yeah, that's just a good all-round rule to remember. Don't be the aggressor, right? If all else fails, wait until you're in imminent danger. I mean, obviously, I would hope that that's the case anyway. Let's not go out shooting people. Just, because if you're not in imminent danger, let's not go out shooting people. Like responsible gun ownership, right? Yes. Yeah, there's a couple insurance agents companies, United Concealed Carry, that can help you know which states allow that. Yeah, I will look up and see what different resources I can find for anyone who's interested. There's a lot of people now becoming gun owners that weren't before, and it's there's just a lot of craziness going on, and I think if you're open to it and you are interested in it, look into it. Go to the gun range, try it out. They have people there that will help you. Um, try it out. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Hey guys, I'm back. Working on a fishing pole. Woo! Hey SoCal, how's it going? We've just been chatting about guns, as one does. As one does. Somebody mentioned my possums. Who was that? Was it? I saw it a while back. Was it XJ? No, it wasn't XJ. You saw it before already, right? Was it Tim? Maybe it was Tim. Anyway, yeah, my possums. I got those. That's an artist from New Orleans. And that is the benevolent sesame and the infant child starfish of the candy corn. That's the name of that particular piece. And those are actual possums that she rescued. They're so dang cute. So dang cute. So anyway, it's just a clusterfuck of craziness out there today. So I hope none of you have been affected by the protests and all of the absolute insanity that is going on right now. Oh, thank you so much, SoCal. Happy B-Day, Eggy's mommy and daddy. Yes. Yes, for those that didn't hear, my husband Dave, his birthday was yesterday. So, yep, we're one day apart. So we just do a shared birthday. And it's a lot of fun. So, thank you. Thank you guys so much. You guys are the sweetest. I think the possums comment was an hour ago. It probably was. But I did see it and I wanted to, I saw it in the background and I wanted to address it because I meant to before. But yeah, I got talking about guns and got distracted. So it happens. It happens. But Tim, if you're listening, I did see your comment. And yeah, he does look like, I think you said he looked like a possum king. He does. She also makes those, the saint candles that have the like little stickers on them. She makes one with that picture for the as the saint candle. It's hilarious. I used to have it. I might still. I don't know if I got rid of it or not when we moved. But I had that candle. It was hilarious and I loved it. So thank you so much, SoCal. I feel like I should put that up a little bit longer. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. You guys are the best. So, well, good. I'm so glad that you guys are like hyped about talking about guns too, because we're a big 2A family. We're big 2A supporters and 2A activists. There's some interesting stuff that's going on here in Ohio. There is a bill that they're trying to pass called, what's the acronym? I think it's like SAPA, SAPA, or SAPA. I don't know how they pronounce it. It's the Second Amendment Protection Act. So for all of our Ohio people, they're trying to get that up on into the state floor to pass the bill or to get it up. So if you're into that, go check it out. Go look it up. Let me see, because I know we have quite a few Ohio peeps here. Let me look it up and I'll give you a link so you can check it out. The Second Amendment Protection Act. And there are other states that are trying to do this as well. So actually, it's not just Ohio. Strategic Action Plan on Aging. That's not the one. That's not the one. House committee passes Second Amendment Preservation Act. So does it only need to go through the Senate now? Because I know they're still working on it. Moves now to the, oh, no, wait. House committee. Oh, so they still need to get it to the House floor. Okay. Yeah, that was. But here, I'll give you guys this. For any of the Ohio people who want to read about it, you can also contact your local legislator and let them know you would like that passed. And basically, and I can look into, I was talking to a guy who, he is the director for the Ohio Gun Owners Association. Is that it? I think so. And he is helping out with this bill. He's working with the legislator who is sponsoring the bill. And he has two brothers. His name is Chris Dorr. He has two brothers, and they live in other states. And they are also trying to get this bill passed in other states. I believe he said they got it passed it was one state already. It might be Missouri. And basically what the bill is it says if, say, a federal bill gets passed, that is unconstitutional. Shouldn't, but it still can. So say, Joe Biden, who definitely wants to take your guns away and restrict everything. Say he passes a bill. They pass a bill that would restrict your guns and have, the police come and confiscate your weapons or whatever it might be. Whatever craziness they come up with. This act would prohibit state police from enforcing such a law. So it's very clever. It's a very clever act. So it doesn't, it's kind of like a safe, like catch-all in case any type of unconstitutional law gets passed. It would say, well, sorry, state police can't enforce that act. Or can't enforce that law. Awesome. So, yes, definitely look into it. See if, yeah, I know. Second Amendment protection. I never thought we would. There are Democratic legislators that do want to regulate your guns here, even in Ohio. Yes, Buckeyes, definitely make some noise to your reps. Absolutely. Absolutely. Constant battle here in California. The Supreme Court's against, yeah. Sucks, right? Sucks. And I know there's a lot of Republicans in California. That sucks, dude. I don't know what else to say but move. California's the worst when it comes to stuff like that. It might be lovely. View-wise. I don't know. I suppose that depends on where you live, but who knows? Hey, how are you, Paradox Fossils? Alan. Ooh, we've added to the name. Paradox Fossils Alan. Hey, what's up? Long time no see, bud. So glad to have you here with us. Yeah, there's a lot, especially if you're gun owners. Keep an eye, and if I see something in the House or the Senate, they are doing a lot very sneakily right now to try and create new gun laws, restrictions. I do want to talk about, they have created a committee and basically a red flag federal um do they just call it the red flag federal committee? I can't remember what it is. There's a name for it, where they want to enact red flag laws in every state. Kamala Harris is spearheading that one because she's Satan. So yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff right now, kind of behind the scenes. And if I see any bills coming up on the floor, whatever, we'll definitely cover those for sure. Because I know most of you are gun owners, or at least pro 2A here. So yeah, we welcome everyone in California. That's true, you do. Free stuff and open arms here in California. Yeah, come on in. You'll get free healthcare. You'll get free food. You'll get free lodging, as long as you're illegal. Otherwise, we'll tax the shit out of you. Yeah, it's a little crazy there. Guns in Michigan at the county sheriff level need a license from a sheriff to buy any you need a license to buy a firearm there? Dude. Make friends with the sheriff, I guess. Make friends with your local sheriff in Michigan. That sucks. Yeah, Michigan is pretty crazy with guns too, right? Like New York when it comes, I know New York is terrible. That's new this year. Ugh. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. I know you got like a Democratic government in Michigan to deal with as well, and that just sucks. Isn't Michigan one of the states that the Secretary of State was one of the people considering keeping Trump off the ballot? Wasn't that in Michigan too? He's crazy. And it's always women. It's always women. Some of them. Smack them around. Smack them around. Missouri is very low restrictions. That's awesome. Yeah, we were just talking about, I don't know if you heard, the Second Amendment Protection Act. I think it might be Missouri that they passed that, which is amazing. So I know they're trying to pass that in several other states, Ohio being one of them. Awesome. I think that needs to be passed in every state. It won't be, unfortunately. Haven't purchased a pew pew in so long. They won't even let me buy ammo for what I own without taking and paying for a class. It's ridiculous. Are you kidding? Like, you can't even buy ammo without taking a class? Do you need a license to buy ammo? Or just, or you have to get the license from the sheriff and you have to take this class in order to buy ammo? Is that what you're saying? That's crazy. That's unconstitutional. 100%. Well, a license technically is unconstitutional. That's crazy. Wow. If it's been over 5 years, you need a safety class. It is unconstitutional. Dave Hurley agrees. Video shows Ohio man confront Uber driver before fatal shooting. The odds are stacked against Daly with We the People versus, fill in the optional. I know. Yeah. Well, you know what? And with all of these illegals coming in, and that one judge, did you hear about the judge who, like, on one hand, I mean, she's a Democratic judge who wanted to make sure she didn't go against the Second Amendment. So, woo. But she did so by saying that illegals should be able to have guns because it would go against the Second Amendment if we said they couldn't. They're not citizens. It doesn't apply to them. So now, until that changes, there's precedent that illegal aliens are allowed to carry firearms. Great. Just what we need. Yeah. And they're trying to get them to vote as well, right? Just another hidden tax. Oh, they love those. They love those. Just to buy bullets, that's nuts. It is It is nuts. It is. Illegals do not have rights. They must be citizens first. Yeah. Yeah. They need to be citizens. Otherwise, it doesn't apply to them. Doesn't apply. So does that mean anybody visiting the country can have a gun here? Like you just come in on a tourist visa from, say, Australia, and you can buy and carry a gun here now? Is that what that means? Like, think about the precedent that's setting. Just anybody can come in and have one? That's crazy. Well, they have human rights. They do have human rights. They don't have constitutional rights, though, because it's the Constitution of the United States of America, meaning, no, owning guns is a right, not a privilege. It is in the Bill of Rights, but the Constitution and the Bill of Rights applies to the citizens of the United States. It's not like we're determining worldwide. Like the Constitution doesn't have jurisdiction worldwide. It's in the United States of America to the U.S. citizens. So owning a gun is a right. In your state, they're telling you it's a privilege. That is incorrect. Owning a gun is a right. Driving is a privilege, but owning a gun is a right. Can't go to Canada with a studded bracelet. Are you serious? Or are you being facetious, or are you serious? Because it's Canada. It could very well be serious. I stand corrected. LOL, my bad. It's okay. They're brainwashing you. It's not your fault. It's just because of where you live. They're telling you these things. Telling you. It's only taken away if you're a felon. Depending on the state, right? Red flag laws, they can come and take your gun away just because your neighbor doesn't like you. Yep. No, I know better. It's okay. It's okay. We still love you. True story about the studded bracelet. Seriously? You can't go to, you can't. Canada's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, for real crazy. I feel like a Newsom supporter now. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You're a product of your environment. No, it's okay. They got in there a little bit, but that's all right. I said, nay, that's not happening, my man. No, we're bringing you back. We're bringing you back and reminding you it is a right, not a privilege. I'm dead inside. Nope. You're among friends. It's okay. We brought you back. We brought you back. That's all that matters. Canada sucks. Well said. Well said. That's absolutely crazy. A studded bracelet it's too violent. Is that the problem? Is that why? Like they're gonna say that's a deadly weapon? That's craziness. Why would you want to go to Canada if that's how they are? Your brother-in-law was arrested for having a spike bracelet? That's crazy. For what? Why? What was here in the US? What was he using it as a deadly weapon? Like, why would you be arrested for a spike bracelet? Canada has nice cold breezes. It's true. True. And good for big footing. We have no rights in Canada. No, for real. For real. Oh. Wait, actually, aren't you in Michigan? Or you're just saying like we as Americans have no rights? Well, we're not citizens there. So I just want to go fish with How to Hunt Steve. Is still a true BFOG. Oh, really? Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of like a big footin'. That's the term. It's correct. Up in Canada. I thought the Canadians were leaving Canada because of Trudeau. Yep. Steve's in Canada. Yeah. It's not Canada that sucks. Idiot politicians. Yeah, no, for real. I've been to Canada. It's lovely. It's beautiful. Idiot politicians, same BS we deal with here. Usually try it in Canada first, then they try it here. Oh, they better not try what they're doing there here. How to Hunt is a fun channel. Is it? Okay, I'll have to check it out. Lots of Squatch in BC. Yep. I used to hear about it from Dave Scott. Used to go to Canada often. I've been there. I have been to British Columbia. I've been to Montreal. I have been to Nova Scotia, which is beautiful. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous there. And I've been to Alaska, which is like same kind of terrain as northern Canada, right? Sure, terrain doesn't just change at the border. Absolutely gorgeous up there. British Columbia is where How to Hunt is located. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. Yeah, there's a lot of great channels on YouTube. A lot of great channels. I hear Rebellious 1776 is pretty darn snazzy. It's a pretty good one. You might want to check it out. Of course, if you're here, you already have. So thanks. Niagara is cool. Yes, Niagara is really cool. Though, okay, for those of you that have been to Niagara, like I've only been to the New York side of Niagara. Doesn't the Canada side look so much nicer? It's like the New York side looks like the ghetto side of Niagara, and then you look across to Canada and you're just like, that's so beautiful. 1776 is my top 3. Aw, thanks, XJ. I'm so excited. Well, with the stuff that we're going to be bringing in, I hope it, maybe makes it up into the number 2 slot. Or 1. But 2, I will take 2. I will. So, yeah, we're working on some fun stuff. So, I think you guys will like it, but don't worry, we'll still have our congressional hearing viewings cuz those are just fun too, right? We'll just be a little pickier with the ones that we choose. So, my honeymoon here, 1991. LOL, what a night. Woo. Awesome. At Niagara, it's beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful. It is beautiful there. I mean, the falls are incredible. Incredible. Great motorcycle riding up there in the summer too. Oh, but check your stuff at the border first. Bear spray only. Somebody was just saying yesterday. I was talking to somebody who said bear spray actually is a good if you don't want to have a gun. Bear spray is a good alternative. So Chrissy beat you slightly. Well, that's understandable. I get it. Well, I'm happy to be number 2 to Mind Forked. That's totally fine. She's amazing. It's beautiful. Yeah. Niagara is absolutely beautiful. All right, guys. Well, we've been at it for almost 3 hours. That's pretty crazy. Didn't expect to be on that long tonight. But you know what? It's so much fun. And I am so happy to spend my birthday with you all. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. And for those of you that haven't seen the new ending, because I did show it on Wednesday, but that was, or no, when was that? God, Tuesday. Hey, Tuesday was the last time that I was on, which is crazy. But yeah, you'll see Ozzy. Ozzy is one of my other chickens, and she's a sweetheart. She's my lap chicken. You sit down, she'll jump up on your lap, and she'll just hang out. I'm like, hey, how's it going? So I have Ozzy on an Uzi. Are you ready for this? It's life-changing. Thank you, Paradox Fossils. Thank you guys so much for spending my birthday with me. It's so much fun, and I love you guys. As always, much love to everyone. And I will be back tomorrow, but like I said, check in the morning because it'll probably be a little bit earlier than usual because we are going to the gun range tomorrow. So that's going to be so much fun. But yes, I hope you love Ozzy, but don't worry. For those of you that are Eggy Smalls fans, Eggy Smalls, the patriotic chicken, is at the end as well. So you get Ozzy, the patriotic chicken, and Eggy Smalls, both patriotic chickens. But it's Ozzy on an Uzi, so that's kind of amazing. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. You guys are so sweet. You guys are so sweet. Okay, guys. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. No, dang it. No, Lynn. No. Okay, we're going to try that again. Hold on. I'm going to back it up. And I wasn't done, but now I am. Bye.
Something's new now behind your eyes. Feeling left behind. I wanna know. Inside the light, I'll watch the world play. Skies. Something's new now behind your eyes. Feeling left behind. I wanna know. I'll tell you that I need a longer day to wash my fears away. Chase the life I dream. And there'll be much more to show. Side of me, I wanna know. I wanna know. I'll learn it all tonight. I'll tell you that I need a longer day to wash my fears away, chase the life I dream. There'll be much more to show, and I will never know the darker side of me. I need a longer day to wash my fears away, chase the life I dream. There'll be much more to show, and I will never know the darker side of